Some of the content of Patriots Unfiltered may not be suitable for all audiences. Listener discretion is advised.
The world's original podcast.
This is Patriots Unfiltered.
Presented by Toyota's official website for deals, buyatoyota.com.
Patriots Unfiltered.
Patriots Unfiltered. It is Tuesday here at Gillette Stadium, and we just came off the practice field. Practice stop ended around 1:15 today. So we're here to talk about everything we've seen over the last few days since we were last with you on this show, which was Sunday, I guess. Right. It's Deuce, it's Paul, it's me. Evan will be by later. But, before we start out, guys, I just feel like I need to give Patriots Nation a little bit of a reset and a pep talk. Let's face it, it's been a rough 48 hours, right? You had the Christian Barmore news, which is tough. You had, Judon showing himself, yesterday and all that stuff that came with it. Drake May didn't have the best day. Your guy, Jabril Peppers,
that's the bad
got
one.
nicked up.
That's the bad one.
Yeah, so, there's been a lot of stuff written, but yesterday was the first day of padded practice. But the hysteria about, Drake May, shades of Mac Jones. Mac Jones was never this bad, and Pete, Gerard Mayo's just another Pete Carroll, who, by the way, wasn't a bad coach, but they're walking all over, Gerard Mayo. Jacoby Brissett separated himself from Drake May yesterday.
Well, that part was true.
Well, he's a 7-year veteran. It was the first day of
more than that.
Okay, it was the first day of padded practice. If he wasn't separated from a rookie, something's wrong. We're not looking for who can separate. We're looking to see if Drake May can get to where at least Jacoby Brissett is in the NFL. There's no
ever. Well, now.
Now, let's see. No. Right, he isn't.
No,
and I don't expect him to be on the first day of padded practice. Did you?
No.
Yeah, so
I don't think he has a chance to start week 1. So okay, I've been pretty consistent.
Whatever, but the hysteria about the fact that he had a rough day. On the first day of anything that resembled real football, he had a rough day. Okay, Judon acted crazy yesterday, and he's not here today.
Yeah,
so,
I wouldn't be surprised if those two things are linked, Freddie.
Oh, I would expect that's exactly why he's not here. I think Gerard Mayo gave him a little leash and took it away from him after he showed his ass. Let's face it. Ooh. I'm not saying that Judon is a villain, and I know he said he doesn't want to be. He's asking for money. That's great. Players. I remember Ty Law calling Bill Belichick a liar.
Yep.
I remember Menkins being pissed off and saying some pretty harsh things. Richard Seymour. Name a lot of players. So this is nothing new. The only thing that was a little different is Judon came to practice because he was allowed to.
That's the new part.
Yeah, and
the new part was the public spectacle of it. And I think, in all seriousness, I do think that they probably said, you know what, you ain't practicing tomorrow either.
Right. Yeah. Right.
Because that was unprofessional. I've been very much pro player with a lot of these squabbles, and you're right. He's not a villain for wanting more money. He's a villain for acting like a petulant child yesterday.
Yeah, well,
he tried to embarrass his coach and the front office. He was like Elliot Wolf.
He was like a kid in class that was constantly disrupting the class. Yep. And what do you do then? You get them out of the class because the rest of the kids want to learn.
Yep.
And that's what we had yesterday, and that's what Gerard Mayo did.
Yeah, and I was wondering if we were going to get maybe some kind of a announcement about that, but maybe they're just going to keep it in-house and move on. But I wouldn't be surprised if Gerard said, you know what, you can take tomorrow off.
We'll
see you on
later
Thursday.
on in the show. We can talk about the different scenarios that could happen with Matt Judon. But what did happen yesterday was he acted up, and Gerard kicked him out of class.
Yeah,
and he's still out of class. So whatever reason that is, he's still not here, and Gerard did what he had to do for the rest of the team, because that's who he needs to focus on right now is the players who are here. So but the fact, some of the people talking about this yesterday is just that you would think that,
It was a tough day for.
It was
like
a tough day. Right, but you got to look at each thing individually.
Right, but that's what. But them all happening at once.
Sure.
To me,
Yeah.
like Barmore. So let's just. Your three best defensive players all had something happen to them yesterday.
Right. Yeah.
Like on the same day.
Yeah, it's tough.
Say Peppers?
Yeah,
I'm
Peppers,
doing it. I'm doing it for you
Peppers, Barmore,
and Judon.
and Judon.
No,
Like and then on
And
the flip
Gotcha's
side, the thing that you're probably most excited. No, I'll speak for myself personally. The thing I'm most excited about is the third overall pick quarterback. Kind of has gotten off to a pretty slow start at camp, and really I thought struggled yesterday. I thought there were a couple of things I liked a little bit more today, but still not great. I thought today the bigger problem than May. I thought he was let down a little bit by his receivers, but couple all of those things together, combined all those things, it's a tough day yesterday.
It was, and that's what I said.
Like it doesn't mean like we have to say there's no hope for anything in the future. The next 5 years are shot, and I don't really think anybody's saying that. I think people were saying yesterday was a train wrreck.
Yeah.
And it kind of was.
It was.
Well,
I mean,
like I said, it was a tough 48 hours.
especially if you like the defense, and that's been my thing. And I think one thing that we've kind of hung our hat on was like, I think the defense will be pretty good this year. I know, not everybody agrees to what level they'll be okay, but you look at, as Paul said, three very impactful players that now have question marks. And I would say after yesterday, my question mark about Matthew Judon, it's a bigger question mark than it was earlier. We don't know when Christian Barmore is going to get back.
I wouldn't count on him for a long time.
Who's going to rush the passer this year? And that's and as we're watching practice and we're seeing some good reps with the first offensive line where there's a pocket there and Brissett's able to get the pocket out and you feel like they're making some progress there. But at the same time, you're watching this defense kind of fall apart here through the first week of camp. And
well, when you say fall apart, you mean losing key guys.
Yeah, just losing pieces.
But they've been playing pretty well out there, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think we can talk now about the one-on-ones where, I think the absence of those guys in those one-on-one drills, and, Evan can speak to it as he walks in here, is, you're making the offensive line look better all of a sudden because you don't have the terror that is Christian Barmore going against some of those interior guys. I also thought, too, Paul, a couple bad snaps today for May, going with Mafi with the third, third string.
Mafi has really struggled with that second group, and the snaps have been all over the place because – and we should probably point out, because David Andrews isn't out there the last 2 days.
Right, he hasn't
Nick
been
Leverett has been with the first group, and Mafi has been with the second group. And I do notice May catching a lot of snaps around his knees and shins.
Yep.
And that's tough. To me, that throws off rhythm right off. But before you even get started, before your eyes can even do anything, you have to focus on getting the snap.
Yeah.
So
listen,
it's not all Drake May.
No, it's not all Drake May, but a lot of it, obviously, he looks like a rookie. Playing with, guys who aren't, are starting from scratch. This is an offense that's starting from scratch, and so now you're a rookie quarterback along for the ride. It's going to be rough, but I wouldn't let up on him if I was the coaches. I would be coaching him hard. I would even go to this extreme. At times, I would tell the defense what's coming. I would let them cheat, and then afterwards, I would use it as, hey, Drake, what did you see? Here's the thing. If you see this again, you know that they're on to you. Maybe you can audible out. And then 3 days later, I do the exact same thing again and see if he learned. And see if he
is diabolical.
And see if he's a mistake repeater.
Yeah.
I put him in a situation where he's going to fail, let him fail, teach him why he failed, teach him how not to fail the next time, and then later on see if he learned. I mean, that's how you have to do it. You have to test his limits.
Yep. I'd just say today I thought, and Paul laid out, it was, an okay day, better. He completed some passes, and I think, even just having Douglas run drills, all of a sudden you've got somebody with some real shake in the middle. I thought one of his reps, I felt like he missed him, but just the sheer volume. I mean, I counted out the 22, 11 on 11
He got an extra
reps.
set.
He got extra set, and I just, and even at the end when it was kind of opportunity reps, he was still in there. Nice day for Joe Milton too, but
I think Joe Milton was great today.
Yeah, he had a couple nice throws.
I don't think it means anything, but I thought he was great today.
No, but
I call it like I see it.
No, and it stayed as it's kind of been, but I just thought the amount of reps that they got for Drake today, that's what he needs. He needs to see this stuff. He needs to rep it over and over and over again with a wide variety of people. So to me, that's almost the best thing to come out of the day. It's just that he's getting a lot of work and they're making sure of it.
Yeah.
First reps for Douglas against the defense too.
Yeah.
So you did see that there was one one of the first plays that May had, I think, in 7-on-7 was just a quick out to Douglas that was as effortless as it could be.
Yep.
The throw comes out. Douglas has created separation, easy throw, easy pitch and catch.
Yeah. So Douglas was out there in a red non-contact jersey, so obviously you can't jam him on the line or anything like that. I guess he had a free release every time, but you can see the difference in his quickness with some of the other guys.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he's a difference maker. I got to highlight Jaylen Polk too, because he just continues to show up and to be targeted.
Polk's showing up.
He gets a lot of reps.
Yeah.
He comes up with some tough catches. I think he had a drop today. So it's not perfect, but to me, he just looks like a tough, productive kind of receiver. Is he a game-changing weapon? I don't know about all that stuff, but to me, when I look out there, he's been the most consistent guy in terms of he's out there a lot. He's getting targeted. He's making some plays here and there. I mean, you mentioned the Milton play. I thought was beautiful to him. I think he's having a good camp. He's having a good start. Javon Baker's been a little bit more boomer bust. He shows up with a big play and then he's kind of quiet. Still like what he's doing, but all those receivers are really getting a chance.
They're trying to sort it out.
I spent today kind of just charting what receivers were doing what reps, and it's a huge rotation. Even the tight ends, all the tight ends are getting a chance out there. So they're trying to piece it all together right now.
Yeah, they had some different drills where they have two quarterbacks on one field, two on the other, and one was focused on running back and tight end throws. The other was wide receiver throws, and then they moved the quarterbacks around so they got to, be with both groups. But they're really, today was a heavy pass day. A lot of.
I thought it was a lot of both.
Yeah.
The first team periods, I think they had 6 plays and there were 4 runs each.
Yeah.
And then they sort of cycled through. But Mike's right. I thought there was an extra set of 6 plays. It was like red zone. Oh, by the way, they did red zone today for the first time.
They did.
High red zone.
They had like 6 plays of red zone. Then they went back out around midfield, and May stayed out and did 6 more plays, which was the first time I thought he doubled up.
11 straight reps, which was,
okay.
I believe, the longest that we've seen him rep consecutively in a practice. And it wasn't pretty, but the volume is a good thing, I would say, just for him. And I remember Mac's rookie camp that's how it would go. It'd be Cam Newton would get a drive, and then Mac would get 3 drives, and then maybe the third quarterback would get in there at that point. But it feels like with Drake May, just quickly, my thoughts on it. Processing is obviously a place where he needs to start right now. I think maybe some of the conversations we've had about his footwork and all that kind of stuff, maybe a little bit too much focus on that and not enough focus on his timing and his anticipation and those types of things that come with being an NFL quarterback. But just talking to some of the reporters after practice, one thing we all kind of agreed on is that if you expect him this early on to just sit in the pocket and light up a defense, I just don't really think he's that kind of quarterback.
That's unrealistic.
So he's not going to sit there and dice up a defense and be on time on everything and things like that. So I am curious when they get out into the preseason game next week, if all of a sudden now he's able to move around and he's able to do some of those off-platform and off-script things and things of that nature. Does he make more plays doing that? Whereas right now, you're really asking him to just run in structure, like he's Tom Brady, and he's just hitting the top of the drop and getting the ball out. And at his age and his developmental timeline, I'm just not sure he's ready for that just yet.
And I thought, and I mentioned at the beginning, I thought his receivers didn't really give him a ton of help today. And there were a couple of plays during that extended set that Evan just talked about where it was like 5 or 6 plays and then they doubled up. There was a crosser to Javon Baker, which I think showed a little subtle move in the pocket, one of those little drop-down throws. And Baker kind of stopped. I don't know if maybe Jones got a hold of him or if Baker just throttled down, but I thought it was thrown well and it ended up out in front of him. They couldn't make the connection. The next play is one of those hard play actions that me and Evan talk about all the time, where they reverse the roll and he's rolling to his left, which is not easy to do. And he's throwing, he's got to turn his shoulders, throws, and he layered it beautiful. It looked like a zone. Polk was there. The throw was a little high, but he got both hands on it, and he doesn't make the catch. I thought the throw was pretty good.
Yeah, for that type of
throw. So
yeah.
I understand what Evan's talking about. Like, he's trying to sort of process the plays and stay on script and do what the play is designed to do. Once he's able to sort of take a play like that and say, well, that's kind of there, but I got to fit it in, I might just be able to get like 8 yards by by running or, doing something else by extending the play, they probably don't want him extending plays now. They probably just want him running plays.
In that first preseason game, do you think he'll be coached not to do that? Like, stay with the script.
That's a good point. Too.
I don't know.
It's hard to say like a kid in his first NFL game.
Do you know the play I'm talking
just
about?
Stay in the pocket.
Yeah, so it's a non-arm side bootleg, and I thought he looked really comfortable going to his right, bootlegging to his right, and to his left. That's a very difficult throw to make because you got to get your shoulders back upfield. Yeah. It's really hard to do, and I thought it was a little high, like you said.
It was definitely a little high.
But maybe catchable in that circumstance. But I think in general right now, it just looks like he's overthinking the game a little bit. He's not seeing the field particularly fast or well, whereas I would just like to see him just kind of be a gunslinger and be an athlete. But that might not come until you get into a game setting and they'd allow him to do that more instead of what they're trying to do in practice.
And I'll say the same thing for him that I said with Matt that first year. I hope they allow him to make mistakes. I really do, because if they micromanage and coddle him too much, he's never going to learn his limits.
So the other throw at the end of that one, because those were like the red zone portion of the first set of the double reps that he got. The last one I think was kind of a fade to Baker with Sean Wade in coverage, and Sean Wade did a nice job in coverage. I'm not taking anything away. Wade got his hand on the ball. I just thought it was a play that I'd like to see my receiver go up and win that. I thought he threw a very catchable ball. Wade made a good play. I mean, the check mark on that play goes to the defense. Like, Sean Wade broke the pass up. Yeah. It was not a drop by Baker by any means, but, again, go up and make a play for him.
Yeah, I felt maybe not totally similar, but kind of a similar play with Hunter Henry on the other end where he kind of threw the same thing, just stepped back, threw it, and they couldn't quite complete that one.
Yeah, there was a couple of I thought there was a back shoulder that he tried to throw to Henry near the far end zone on that sideline that didn't look good.
That was one.
Didn't look good. I don't know whose fault it was. Maybe someone read it wrong. I don't know. But there was different things there, and like I said, the one thing you talked about, repeating the mistakes, Freddie.
Yep.
The one thing I'm a little concerned. Again, it's not even a week. We still see some of those pumps and then hurried throws, which don't look like they have a lot on them.
Yeah.
And you're not going to get away with them.
It's just not seen.
There's a lot of them that are going straight out to the sidelines, like when a play is broken down, and it's like a little pump and then a throw. He's not set. Now he can do it.
Yeah.
And Evans talked about this during our live shows the first 4 days. Like, physically, he can do it. He can get it there, and he has gotten it there for the most part in these practices, but that's a dangerous way to live.
Yeah.
And he's still doing it.
Yeah. To me, it's just a symptom of everything, of him not seeing it, not being in time, it's like this, no, that, it's moving, it's speeding up on him. And
don't you feel like it happens 2, 3, 4 times a day?
For sure. And I mean, I guess I hope that day off tomorrow for them, then we're going to be, I think, another couple pads. They'll probably get into pads next week.
Well, they won't be pads on Thursday.
Yeah, hoping that as we see them take a break, reset off of 2 days of pads, tons of reps here to build off of. That maybe we see some strides Friday, Saturday, into the weekend as we gear up for the first preseason game next week.
It's rolling.
It's rolling.
The days are rifling through.
Yeah. So, are we allowed to be encouraged about our tackles?
I mean, I kind of do. I kind of feel that way. I mean, look, I'm on the side of the street that I just want to set it and forget it. I'm like, it's going to be fine. Don't worry. But look, it just a comparison to the last couple years. And I know it's not fair to compare an actual offensive line with an offensive line coach who has a system that knows the the offensive coordinator system, to compare to what they were doing in the past with Matt Patricia when he was running back and forth between offensive line and, it was, and, now we're talking about Scott Peters' strike system and, all these they seem to know what they're doing. And I feel like the last couple of days we've seen some progress. We've seen some pockets. Is that going to be the peanut gallery over here?
I don't even know what we're talking about.
You're good. You're rolling.
I got to admit, I'm kind of I still think the offensive line is going to be okay. Now I'm completely I don't know if the defense is going to have enough pass rush to really support the offense now.
That's I would say slow down on the defense being a disaster. I still see a lot of passes that are either blown up with sacks or short circuited. Now, I did make a comment today to my peanut gallery, Giardi and Andy Hart, because they refused to watch practices with me. I thought there were more of those play actions, misdirection boot when they play action one way and they boot the other way, that the quarterback turned around and didn't have a pass rusher right in his face.
Yeah.
And you could count on one hand the amount of times that happened in the first 4 or 5 days. Today, they were able to execute some of those plays. Now, there were some that he still, he did. And I think some of those plays get blown up under real conditions. My big thing that I'm encouraged about with the tackles is this is 3 days in a row now, 4 days in a row.
It's the same one.
It's Chooks at the right side and Caden Wallace on the left side. I think they've decided those are my 2 tackles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that gives me some encouragement.
When they split into the 2 one-on-one groups I was watching, and they had 7 guys with the top unit, and it was very clear right now those are the top 7 guys, and then the backups were over with the other unit. But there's a chance, and I don't want to get too ahead of ourselves because it's only 2 padded practices, but that was some of the better line play I've seen the Patriots have in training camp in a couple years over the last couple days. When I charted the one-on-ones, I had 9 straight wins for the offensive linemen over the top defensive linemen. Uche, Jennings, Aquale, Wise, guys that are going to be in the mix for the Patriots on defense this year. Now, like to Mike's point, there's no Judon, there's no Barmore. Those are 2 guys that in one-on-ones can consistently wreck one-on-ones.
Those are the winners.
So those are the guys that definitely are missing from this puzzle, but there's a chance that the Cleveland guys just know how to coach line play. Like, there's a chance that that's the thing, because they had great lines in Cleveland for the 4 years that Alex Van Pelt was there, and Bill Callahan gets a lot of that credit. But maybe this system and this coaching staff and the strike system and all these little things that they do.
You're going to need a tutorial on that later.
In Cleveland, maybe it works.
Yeah. And I'll even say, in Cleveland last year, they were absolutely decimated with injuries and had to keep doing it with lesser personnel.
Yeah.
So,
I mean,
in fairness, I didn't watch. I haven't seen any of the one-on-ones.
You're not.
I'm watching.
You don't have the Sunday ticket with the Cleveland Browns.
No. The one-on-ones. They had some one-on-ones.
I'll show
down
you
in
my
Dante's,
notes
and
I was watching a few of them.
Yeah, I haven't really watched any of that much. Like, I don't tend to get too into the one-on-ones with the receivers in general too, because it's just so hard. But the full team offensive line play, I thought, to Evan's point and to Mike's point, strike with was a little better.
Yeah.
I thought there were some more play actions that didn't get immediately blown up. It's a work in progress. There's a lot of run plays for no yards too.
Well,
so
they're not tackling yet, and so
Jacoby Brissett hit KJ Osborne at the end of practice on the crossing route where he had all day. Back there.
I know exactly the play you're talking
and
about.
I haven't seen that
That's a
in a
play.
Patriots practice often.
So leave it to Mike to, instead of just being encouraged by some progress, it's like, I don't know if we're going to be able to get any pressure on the passer this year.
Yeah, I don't know what it means. I'm kind of on the fence with Mike about this, because they're missing guys and guys that might not even be here now without Barmore and Judon. So I don't know what to make of it, but some of the things that you talked to about the linemen, it seems like they're getting coached really well in that room, and it's all
they're getting better, right?
It's getting better every single day.
You never saw that in old camps, right?
Yeah.
It was a nightmare every day. Those guys were at the podiums, like they look like beleaguered, we can't figure it out.
I will say this too.
And this is all without Andrews too.
Yeah, David Andrews has been missing, but for the most part, you've been really healthy. Up front, and that hasn't been the case the last few years.
Even the outside zone stuff that they've been running, they've made some holes for the running backs in some of the run periods as well.
Yesterday, I thought there were a couple of really positive runs.
Yeah, and that, again, not something that I could say happened often.
Never.
In the last couple
last.
years.
Do you remember when they tried the zone stuff 2 years ago?
Yeah,
like
disaster.
every single one of them was a party in the backfield.
We were like, why are we even doing this?
Yeah, the top unit hit one yesterday with Antonio Gibson where I think he was gone.
Yeah.
Like 60-yard touchdown gone. Yeah, that doesn't happen very often.
All right, 855-PASS-500 is the Ace Ticket hotline. 855-PASS-500. Web radio at patriots.com is the email address if you want to email. And it's easy to drink. It's easy to enjoy. Bud Light is the official beer sponsor of the New England Patriots. And if you're looking for furniture, Paul, you looking for any furniture? Home office?
Not particularly.
No? Has your work from home space turned into everything
space?
From home space? Find furniture that fits your life, your budget, your living space, thanks to Bob's Discount Furniture. Shop tons of on-trend, small space-friendly styles like Bob's do-it-all dining sets, smart storage, and small footprint sectionals that can take you all the way from midday meeting to happy hour in no time. So stop into your local store and multitask stylishly with Bob's Discount Furniture, the official furniture store of the New England Patriots. So, yeah, it's good to see the offensive line not just being pieces of furniture. They're actually getting it done.
Good segue.
It's a sectional.
Maybe Scott Peters actually knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
That's the early returns. That's what I would say.
Well, we've seen it over the years. Like, the guys that the Patriots have had on the offensive line haven't always been,
right,
Pro Bowlers or whatever. But Dante Scarnecchia just figured it out. Injuries would happen. You plug somebody else. As long as he's playing the system that Dante taught and the techniques that he drills into him, they were okay. They got by.
Yeah.
They got by.
It's like he's going to take some getting used to with Chukwuekorfor, though, because his pass set is wonky. Like, he's able to keep guys in front of him, but it doesn't look clean. So we'll see what it looks like when he's facing some better rushers.
Yeah.
He's the one guy in one-on-ones where I've had some losses go his way that have been a little bit inconsistent. But, I thought Layden Robinson also was pretty good yesterday, specifically in some of the drills, too. So both rookies, I think, are off to a decent
even when
start.
the Patriots had guys like Matt Light, Jason Taylor would still have his days, So the better, the elite pass rushers, that's the reason why they're elite is because they win most of the time. So it's not going to be perfect, but you're looking for competency.
Right. Well,
that's what I've seen. Competency.
Like I remember practices the last 2 years where it's like, did the offense get anything out of today? Because they can't run anything. Like half the plays that they try to run, like Paul said, were blown up, and like it's like, man, what a waste of a day. And it's like, are you mad at the defense because they're spinning the dial on you? But and Paul's right to it's not like every play it's just perfect.
But it's been better since the pads have been on. It's been better.
It's at least looks like a functional offense right now, and that they're able to. Everybody's buying in. They understand what they need to do. It's all connected. That's just kind of the sense that I'm getting. Right now, just watching consistent practice. You're watching improvement. You're watching, some plays that looked terrible a couple of days ago. They're starting to show some semblance of order and consistency. So hopefully that continues. And this next few days are probably pretty vital because, look, you're going to have 3 days of practice. Then you're going to have 2 next week kind of getting ready for that game, right? And then one more joint practice, and that's kind of it. So I think these next few practices coming up, I guess Thursday, Friday, Saturday, will be pretty important, pretty telling, and really kind of, I think, the last real training camp practice.
And we should stress that's going to be it for us.
Yeah.
To be able to watch the whole practice.
Of course, they're going to continue.
Like, Bill would have just, thrown up in his mouth a little bit. Like, they have a lot more training camp to go.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Than whatever. What do we have? 6 today? 6?
6.
So there's 7 more that are open to
halfway.
That are open to the public.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
They'll be.
So they still
have
practice.
A lot more practice.
Even during the season?
They will still practice heading into the season.
Well, I have to go to practice, and I have to come back.
And Evan will have to come back from practice. Right?
I can't wait to hear my jingle again.
Oh, we're still doing that? I have a jingle now, too, though. So.
Do you?
I do.
I think Deuce is really hurt that the jingle is not
I have a jingle. I have my own jingle.
He's sneaky territorial.
Yeah. All right, 855-PASS-500. Let's go to unless anything else you guys want to cover,
I think you did a good job of rallying the troops, Fred.
Yeah,
Fred had a public service announcement to the fans.
I had
it's a little like Braveheart.
About everything.
I had a level set.
Yeah, I'm sure we probably are in line on what you said, but to me, it's just we spent the entire draft process telling people that Drake May was a little bit of a project. And then the fact that it doesn't look perfect on the first and second day of pads, now we're up in arms that he's a bust, right? I'm not saying that people are saying he's a bust, but we all told you, and I'm not trying to
Michael Holley said that it looked like Mac Jones.
Yeah.
It looked like Mac Jones against Dallas.
Yeah.
See, that's the part that I don't really understand. Like, you could tell me that you don't, Drake May doesn't look anywhere near ready. And I would probably agree with you. I don't think he looks anywhere near ready.
I agree with that.
Okay? But there's nothing resembling Mac Jones in any way, shape, or form. And I go back to Mike's thing that he said every day when we were up on the ramps. It's just nice not to have to worry about your quarterback's ability. His athleticism, his arm strength, his size, his physicality. Like, none of those are in question. They were all in question with Mac Jones.
Yeah. And again, Mac Jones in Dallas was his 3rd year, right?
Yeah. I don't know where he got that comp. Did he just pick the worst Mac Jones game and that's the one? That reminds me of that.
Now, that's a good off-season project for me next year.
What was
Find
the worst
Mac
one?
Jones's worst game.
It was that was probably one of his worst games.
I think that was probably
2 interceptions, thrown across his body. He got benched.
The pick six across his body is the worst throw I've ever seen him make.
Yeah.
Right.
It's not the only time he did that.
No, it isn't. But it seemed like that was an especially bad game for him. And I think for Belichick, he really wanted to do better in that game as a team because maybe it was kind of an audition because he knew he was going to be. This was his last year, and I don't know. I'm just saying.
I love the Freddie conspiracies.
I'm just saying. I think Bill took that one to heart. That loss. I think he wanted a better showing from his team.
I wanted
obviously
a better showing.
I
was there.
All right, so let's get to the phones. Unless you have something else.
No, let's get to the phones.
Let's get to the phones.
We'll start off with Jeff in Maine. What's up, Jeff?
Hey, how you doing, guys?
All right.
Hey, Jeff.
So, regarding the free safety position, I know that Jaylen Hawkins is kind of looking like the guy right now in that Judon Harmon role. That's what I've heard. But he's kind of been a journeyman for the last 4 years. I know he hasn't worked on it since college, but with Brennan Schooler's size and speed and athleticism, if he really worked on it, do you think that he could have an impact at free safety, and what you think the timeline would look like with that if he were to really work on it? Thanks, guys. I'll take it off the air.
Okay, thanks, Jeff.
Yeah, I don't think so. And I mean, I don't know. I would temper Jaylen Hawkins a little bit. Like, I think he's a good player, and they seem interested in him, especially even on punt team. Like, he's getting some.
He's a core special team.
Yeah, he's a reps at personal protector. So I do think he's in the mix, but I would pump the brakes on thinking he's going to be in there with Peppers and Duggar, and that's our three now. Like, I still haven't made that leap. And for Schooler, I don't think that's.
But they're trying him, right?
Well, he's getting reps back there, and I think Mayo talked a little bit about, you never know.
Mayo mentioned it the other day.
You're in a bind, or you're blowing somebody out. You want to give him a chance, but he wasn't really a safety in college. He was a receiver a little bit, and I mean he's a special.
So I saw something. Do you agree with that, Schooler?
I would just say that Jabril Peppers and Kyle Duggar are your starting safeties.
No, there's no doubt about
that. You need depth there. Someone's going to get hurt.
Yeah, but I think this idea of
Peppers is already hurt.
The Judon Harmon role and that third safety, I'm not sure if it's necessarily going to be that cut and dry, because my guess is that Jonathan Jones, Marcus Jones, and those guys are going to be playing out of the slot.
That's what I was going to say. Did you see a lot of Jonathan? I saw a lot of Jonathan Jones at safety today.
Totally.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden,
and it was dependent on.
Dial spins.
Obviously, it's dependent on the offensive personnel, and if there's three wides to one side or whatever, it sort of takes the back corner and but he was back as the lone safety, in that kind of a role. I started thinking exactly the way Evan just said. It's going to be Duggar and it's going to be Peppers. Is Jaylen this is kind of another version of that offensive line thing. We're going to find our best 5 offensive linemen. Is Jaylen Hawkins better than Marcus Jones and Jonathan Jones? Probably not.
Yeah.
So those are the 5 that are going to be out there. Well, maybe we can move, because I think that they've tried a lot of reps with Marcus Jones on the outside just to see what it looks like.
Yep.
And Jonathan Jones is sort of moving around. I think they're going to try to figure it out with those 5 guys, obviously Gonzalez being the 5th.
Hell yeah.
And they'll be moving around in different roles.
Yeah.
Because those are their best 5 defensive backs.
They keep talking and harping about how they can disguise with Peppers and Duggar, because they're pretty similar players, so that allows you to, one can buzz into the box, the other can do it on another down, and you can kind of switch off which way the rotation is going, and teams can't tee off on that. It kind of reminds me of the Bills with Hyde and Poyer a little bit.
Yeah.
And different types of players, but same type of idea, where on any given play, one would be at free, one would be in the box, and it can just kind of rotate. Yeah. And to Paul's point, I don't feel like that third safety is necessarily going to be as big of a deal, because you're going to have the Joneses, being in, someone is going to be inside in that nickel spot. And if there's going to be anybody that's going to rotate up top that's maybe not expected, I would think it would be one of those guys.
It's one of my favorite things to kind of watch in practice. And everybody wonders about how much carryover there's going to be with the Belichick defense, and, how they're going to continue to spin the dial. I mean, one rep in particular, Paul, where it looked like Jonathan Jones is the middle field safety. It looked like, I think Duggar was at linebacker. And then right at the snap, Jones start charging in the slot, Duggar drops out, and it's a lot of those post-snap things that all of a sudden, change it from middle field open to middle field closed, and, complications. So I think they're going to continue to spin the dial.
It's funny when you see it. You look and you're like, did they just – no, I probably didn't really see it. Nah. And then, you wait to see it 3-4 times, and you're like, okay, so this is something clearly they're trying to do that's a little different.
Yeah.
And then you try to watch and see things like Mike just explained with, sort of changing off and
right at the snap. And I mean, and it's stuff that
exchanging
Jonathan Jones has done
responsibilities.
plenty of in the past. So
he can play.
You know,
back
it's
there.
not
Yeah.
it's not the kind of thing that is so foreign to everybody. But you know, opposing defense or offenses are going to look at that. You know, and that's what they're continuing to try to do: spin the dial, confuse guys, put guys in different spots. I haven't felt though that it's been overly aggressive. Like it seemed like Steve Belichick was way more spin the dial, guys dropping, guys coming, that kind of stuff in practice. I don't know. I might be maybe a little bit reading too much.
I also thought it was
right
interesting
now,
today when they first went to team. There was a lot of sort of secondary guys in the secondary. Marco Wilson, who I thought actually had a pretty active day today.
Yep. Yeah.
He's a guy that we don't really talk a lot about, but he's not a rookie. He's like a fifth-year guy. I think he was in Arizona.
Yeah, he's played a little bit in the league.
Yeah, so he's
kind of like a Jaylen Hawkins.
He's got a little experience in the league. I think he struggled, for the most part until today. I thought he showed up a little bit, made a nice pass deflection on.
I think he picked up that fumble
on a quick
too.
out. He definitely had a scoop.
Yeah,
and
was
score.
that Harris that fumbled it?
I don't know if it was that a fumble on the exchange or did someone hit Harris
It
after?
looked like an exchange.
It was an exchange. Okay. Yeah, I came
because
to
I
it
was
late.
kind of field level. This was one of the times I kind of wished I was up with the know-it-alls.
Yeah,
up in the know-it-all ramp.
So now we're the know-it-alls.
You guys are up in the know-it-all ramp.
We've switched.
It was hard to tell with some of the snaps because it was, especially like you mentioned with May. They just, it didn't
there was
seem
there was some low
consistent,
ones today.
whereas,
but Wilson was with Alex Austin and a couple of lesser-known guys like Mikey Victor was out there a little bit.
Drafted rookie, so Marco Wilson and Alex Austin feel like they're kind of in a competition to be that third outside corner.
Yeah.
It's going to be one of the Joneses and Gonzo, and there's going to be one other guy that's going to be a regular contributor in that room. Isaiah Bolden's probably in that conversation
Bolden
too.
was part of that group as well.
Yeah, and they've been giving some opportunities to those three guys in almost like a rotation with Gonzo and the Joneses. Like every once in a while it's Alex Austin, sometimes it's Marco Wilson, sometimes it's Bolden. So that seems to me like the guy that's going to come on the field maybe more than like a Jaylen Hawkins would be like a bigger outside corner to kick one of the Joneses back inside so that they can get some size in certain matchups, week one against T. Higgins, that type of thing.
Yeah. What did you guys see for the offense took a lap? Did you catch that? It seemed like there was a miscommunication. It seemed like wrong personnel. The whole offense took a lap.
I think they might have had too many guys in the huddle.
Yeah. Looked like maybe Jaylen Polk.
Coach should take a lap with him. Man.
I do think it was Polk.
Spees in Fresno. What's up, Spee?
What's going on? Hey, sounds like it was a tough day yesterday, but got you guys great coverage, so you're kicking ass as usual. Thanks for all that.
Sure.
I got a question about assessing stuff in training camp. When you're seeing, when you're trying to assess individual players or maybe even whole personnel groups like offensive line, it just seems like it would be kind of challenging to know who's really doing well as opposed to just kind of doing okay against what you got on the other side. Like Marcus Jones, for example. I'd love to see him improve because I'm not sure what his ceiling is yet. But when he does well against these receivers in camp, how enthusiastic can you be? When you don't know how it would look going up against better players, or vice versa, if somebody beats Marcus Jones, well, if I don't know how good Marcus Jones is,
you don't know anything, Spee. You know nothing.
Right.
Nothing tells you anything.
Right.
And that's why we just kind of try not to necessarily make these sweeping evaluations of what it means going forward, and just kind of report on what we're seeing It's just in the moment.
Yeah,
in the
just
day.
guys who are consistently showing up. I mean, any single rep, you can easily go but this and but that.
Right.
Like at the end of the day, you just got to tally up who
I'll
made
give you an
plays.
example of that. But first couple of days, we were sort of talking about Jalen Reagor making these plays. And I think Evan was the one that said, we've kind of seen this from Jalen Reagor in the NFL before. Let's see what happens when the pads come on.
Where was he today?
Jalen Reagor drop.
Yeah.
Jalen Reagor incomplete.
But when
it wasn't as good, certainly today, as it was when the pads.
But you can get
come on
indicators from some of these practices, and we've had it in the past with Malcolm Butler or Randall Gay. New guy comes in and wow, he's showing up, and all of a sudden he's getting inserted with.
I've been looking for that. I haven't really seen a lot of that.
Not this year, but
I haven't
guys all of a sudden get inserted with the starters, and they're starting to get reps, and that means something.
And you're like,
when they do that,
okay, they see you do so.
Yeah.
I see you getting reps with the big boys, Deuce.
That kind of thing means something. But,
Strike.
What Spee is saying,
We'll get to that.
there's always a but.
You guys got to teach me
with
later.
all of this.
Right. Well, it's like a one-on-one. Oh, he toasted Christian Gonzalez. This is really hard on the DBs, though, and one-on-one. It's like there's always something, but I would just say I got a question in the mailbag about UDFA. Like, who's standing out? I'm like, I don't really have one right now.
Well, that's what I meant. Like, I haven't really seen a guy, like when you sing the song, one of these things doesn't belong. Malcolm Butler was one of these things that didn't belong in 2014.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't really seen any of those guys
No.
yet. When those guys have been out there, there's been a lot of them out there.
Yeah.
Like
But
I said, it was
maybe,
I didn't know Speed was still there. Sorry.
I'm sorry, but maybe instead of looking at, I appreciate the conversation, but maybe instead of like looking at individual players, is there merit to instead taking a bigger picture look at stuff like, hey, how much are people successfully adapting to whatever new scheme or concepts are being put in? I wonder, is that a different way of looking at it? Like, Evan, is that something that you look for?
Yeah, I feel like for me, it's practice to practice. I try to look at different things because, let's face it, there's no way that you can watch all 22 guys in a live rep without the ability to go back and rewatch it on a practice film and act like you saw everything. So yesterday was the first day in pads, so my binoculars were up and I was watching just the line of scrimmage to watch the big guys up front. Today I looked a little bit more at the receivers again, but it's one of those things where you do have to kind of pick a little bit. When we go to joint practices, like Deuce often watches the defense and I'll watch the offense, and that way you're a little bit more narrowed in what you're trying to look at instead of trying to digest it all. Because if you try to go in there and try to think you know everything, like you saw everything, you're going to get overwhelmed. Like you're not going to see anything at that point.
Thanks, Speed. And a lot of times we don't know what we're watching.
Yeah. Well, that's my bigger point. Like to see how the offense is like. You don't know exactly what's going on in every play,
right?
Or what's supposed to be going on.
Yeah.
Now, you can tell. Like I used that phrase like for a reason. That looked normal. Oh, that didn't look right.
Yeah.
There are times when they actually complete passes, and you say, yeah, that didn't look like that was designed to be like that. And you could tell.
Yeah. It's late in the down and yeah.
Oh yeah. Like a quarterback will run around for 3 minutes and throw a ball 60
1 for
yards,
1,
which may have happened.
Jacoby
earlier
Brissett
in camp.
finished 8 for 10 today.
Right. One guy I'd just highlight too along these lines is Austin Hooper, who's a guy who's played in this system before, and I feel like there's been a handful of plays where it's just like he knows what he's doing. He's in the right place. Jacoby knows he's going to be there. There's just been a couple of those kind of trust plays that I'm hopeful that that's a sign of, as the rest of these guys try to get to the offense, that, it works. And, it's just nice hearing a lot of these guys like Austin Hooper say this system works, and
he had that ready to go.
They have coaches installing the system that know what they're doing, and everybody believes that they know what they're doing, whereas we know what happened a couple years ago where they're trying to install a system that they don't know what they're doing. The players do, and they're saying, you guys aren't doing this right. There's none of that
I think that's a big
That's
difference.
the other thing with Jacoby Brissett, too, not to take away from him clearly being the better quarterback so far in these at least more competitive practices, but he started 11 games in this offense 2 years ago. And he's 31 years old, and he's been in the league for a while. 48 starts in his career overall. Like, of course, he's ahead of where Drake May is at this point. If he wasn't, then Drake
Why
May.
did we sign him?
What are we doing? So,
Zappy out there.
he definitely looks like he has more of those Paul plays, those Sunday plays. Today he hit one to Hunter Henry on a nice post route right over Josh Bledsoe, where I was like, that to Paul's thing. Now I think of it all the time. That was a play.
That looked right.
KJ Osborne, a crossing route towards the end of practice. That was a play. And you can see Jacoby Brissett just knows where the answers are a little bit quicker and a little bit more decisive.
And I was very happy today at the very end of practice, first Brissett, then May, like one play to sort of set up a field goal. And I could tell that the field goals were good. I was right by the goalpost. I could see them.
Jerry's in Boston.
And both, each kicker kicked one each.
What's up, Jerry?
Hey, how we doing, guys? Long time.
Hello, Jerry.
Hey, yeah, guys, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Hey, yeah, guys. Okay, yeah, long time listening, first time caller. Just got a couple comments, and I'd love to hear you guys respond. First, I completely agree with you, Fred, and Paul there about Drake May's development. I think that, they're simulating pressure for him so that, he can learn from those mistakes later on when they re-stimulate that pressure. That's why he's probably working with the second and third team. And then hopefully, by the end of training camp, he's working with the first team. And then as far as the defense, with Barmore out, I'm hoping Jimenez can step up.
Cool.
And Nikwale, Uche, and number 99, I forget his name. I forget his name. But I'm hoping those guys can step up so that we can still simulate pressure on pass pressure. So I'm talking to you, Mike. Hopefully, yeah, the defense is still good. And then just two other things. I was looking at plays randomly on YouTube, and Tom Brady's leaf liquor reel came up, and I was like, man, yeah, that'd be great if they. And then finally, I was looking at the 2025 free agent list, and I was looking at the tackles there. Like, if we're gonna have all this money, I think Tristan Wirfs is like the only guy I'd want, out of the tackles to pick up. And like, assuming we're not going to get a wide receiver because we never really have during free agency, I think we should draft Luther Burden if we're in that draft range, because I got this team with like at least 7 wins. I have them at a floor of 4 because that's what we did last year. And then like Jacoby Brissett, this offense is going to be better. This team should be better than last year, so I mean, at least one more win. That's 5. I mean, Drake may get some playing time. I got them at roughly 7 wins, so I'm thinking we should draft Luther Burden. And I'll take it off the other guys.
All right, thanks, Jerry. Appreciate a lot of stuff there.
There's a lot of stuff there.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Keon White for a second, because
Christian Barmore.
Gerard said in the spring that he was one player that they felt like had stood out in that portion of the offseason, and I still don't necessarily see the one-on-one pass rusher out of him. I think he's disruptive, and he made some plays today in team against the run and yesterday, but in terms of like just one-on-one pass rush off the edge, not necessarily expecting much out of that, but he's a disruptive guy. I'm just not sure he's a productive guy, if that makes sense. Like, he might be causing a lot of chaos, but I don't know if he's necessarily going to be the finisher that a Judon is, if he is someone that has to play a little bit more.
Yeah.
It's like we already have Anthony Jennings, right? Like, that's kind of what I'm afraid of. It's great. He's a big, strong guy who's stout, but he's not going to bring anything against the pass. That's what I'm worried about. And he listed off guys. There's no one who can do what Christian Barmore does. What made Christian Barmore so special and needed by this team. And as much as we want to say Daniel Okwale did fine, when he replaced Barmore 2 years ago, it's a significant drop off. And when you don't have any pressure up the middle and you don't have anyone off the edge, I mean, you're going to ask Josh Uche this year to be like, it's all you, Josh. Right. Like, you got to go get the quarterback this year. That's a huge.
So you guys are telling me that the one-on-ones are being controlled by the offensive line.
Yeah.
Well, the flip side of that tells me that, without Judon and Barmore, potentially, you're going to have to scheme up your pressure, and I don't like that. I don't like having to rely on that.
It's really hard to do on early downs, too, especially they were able to scheme up pressure last year on 3rd down, but 1st and 2nd down, you can't really do it because you got to play the run and play action and all this other stuff. So you're not going to like bring the house on 1st and 10. It's just not really what it's designed to do. So if you don't have a guy like a Barmore, like a Judon, that can just beat the dude in front of him on a 4-man rush on 1st down, then you just have no pass rush on 1st down.
You can run blitz every once in a while, but you get burned that way too.
It's just in some ways I feel like this is going to be, if this continues along, and I'm hopeful that Judon gets worked out and Barmore, I mean, I don't really hope he can return. I hope he could return this year, but I'm not anticipating he's going to be back this year. I just am making peace with that. But I hope that they're able to generate enough pass rush, because it's such an interesting experience where, like, I kind of always initially and getting into football, I believe in the front 7. I believe you got a great front 7, it's going to make up for the deficiencies in the back. And now I kind of see completely the opposite. I see a secondary that I like, that, Christian Gonzalez is promising, Jonathan Jones, I like the 2 safeties. Bentley's a tough player. But up front, if you don't have the horses like this, you know what I mean? Could it be terrible even with a good, a secondary that you have? That's, that's what I worry about now. That's mine.
Dylan's in Florida. What's up, Dylan?
Hey guys, how you doing?
Good.
So I have 2 questions. First, is Drake May's bad reps really because of who's around him? Like, I know you guys mentioned earlier, but let's say, is it the second team offensive line that's failing him, or is it really him making the bad reps himself?
I think it's
or
half
could
and
it be the
half.
other way, where the first team offensive line, when he does make good reps, it's him performing well with them, but then himself, he's not performing well with the second team.
Yeah.
Also,
no, that hasn't really happened.
No, okay. So for this, also my second question was, is the scheme, when you guys first were looking into it in the offseason in spring, you guys talked a lot about what you thought the scheme was going to be. When you're out there, has the scheme been similar to what you thought, or has it been a little different because of the personnel and stuff like that?
Yeah, exactly what I thought.
Thanks, Dylan.
To this point, I'm wondering if they're gonna do anything to spice up some of their early down formations. But as of right now, this is the Alex Van Pelt, Kevin Stefanski offense to a T. Outside zone, pin pull, some trap, like just exactly what I thought. Yeah. Strike system, different things.
You know what my strike system is? Strike first, strike hard, no mercy.
I like it. Cobra Kai.
The lamentations of their women.
I like it.
It's Conan. I like it.
You do wish, though, that they would give Drake May a couple reps with the first team offense in general, but especially the offensive line, because we talk so much about the offensive line being a problem, and now he's playing with guys 6 through 10 or whatever it is on the depth chart when we already are worried about 1 through 5. So it's like when you go down another rung of tackles, especially on this depth chart, you're already a little dicey with Chukes Okorafor and Caden Wallace, and now you're giving him Vidarian Lowe and Calvin Anderson. If he went in there and he had some more time and he was better protected, would it look better? Of course.
And I do think that that's been an issue. I think the offensive line has been an issue. We've talked about it every single day. So I do think that that's part of it. But the more important thing to me is the skill position guys that he's with are regular guys, because they don't really have, like, these 3 guys aren't separating themselves from everybody else. So it's not like Kendrick Bourne and Demario Douglas are clearly the best 2, and we've seen them every day. It's it's Douglas a little bit and just starting to get some competitive stuff against defense, but it's the 2 rookies. It's Jalen Reagor. It's Juju Smith-Schuster. Like, these are all the guys. Tyquan Thornton. These are all the guys that Brissett's throwing to, too. It's the same guys. And they're also, for the most part, May is going against secondary guys on defense.
Yep.
So it's another but.
You keep pulling the threads.
Yeah. So, I do think that the offensive line has been an issue for the offense. Like, the quarterbacks specifically have had some difficulties getting passes off, in rhythm. But I also think it's not just because of who he's playing with, and that won't be an issue. I think Brissett's had issues with that too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think
that's why I think Everett's point at the very beginning of the show about I'd be curious to see what May looks like in a game. When he can do whatever he wants, like when the protection breaks down.
From a Gerard Mayo and Alex Van Pelt perspective, I'm sure they would love to see what May looks like with the front, the 1 through 5, and everything being as it would be to start the game. But how do you balance that? How do you not disrespect Jacoby Brissett and say, "Hey, we're gonna let Drake May take the starting reps this game," and then also risk not getting ready for the season? I mean, it's a tough balance. Everybody wants to see that, but he's got to show. He's got to earn that. He's got to show up, Jacoby Brissett, in practice before he's going to get the right to be under center with the 1 through 5 and everything else. And that we're far from that happening right now.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah. I think just a short-term goal would be David Andrews back, get him with Leverett. Let May play with the true second string, who's been doing okay with the snaps, and see where it kind of goes from there.
So at least he's not doing a third string center.
Right. Just a baby step maybe for this weekend when they get back into pads.
Yeah, Brady was on I think it might have been Coward, and he was talking about snapping the ball into bad defenses and how his whole thing wasn't necessarily about the execution or the result of the play. It was, did I run a play that could actually work against this defense? Now, we're talking about high-level stuff when we start talking about that kind of stuff. But the thing that I see with Drake May right now is he's constantly, in my opinion, reacting instead of instinctually anticipating
That's a good way to put
what the defense is doing to him. And because of that, he's a beat behind on a lot of these things. And a lot of quarterbacks, they're the Bradys of the world, and I'm quarterbacks lesser than him that run it that kind of way. But a lot of these quarterbacks nowadays that come from these spread systems that played in these wide open offenses in college, they don't play football like that anymore. Like, they don't play a timing and rhythm based brand of football anymore. So in some respects, I kind of give Drake May some leash, because you're asking him to do something that he really didn't do at North Carolina. Like, from the point of calling plays in a huddle to getting to the line of scrimmage, to reading the defense, to all these different types of things, and then asking him to execute it in rhythm. This is a learning curve for him. This is something completely new for him. And a lot of these guys, we talk about Josh Allen a lot on this show. a lot of those guys early on in their careers just kind of played football, and they were just superior athletes than the people out there. Patrick Mahomes said he couldn't read a defense until like 2 or 3 years into his starting career in the NFL. And he was just out there on pure talent, just MVP of the league. Now, I'm not saying Drake May is going to do that, but that element is not what we're watching in these practices. We're watching the Brady element of
structure.
Yeah, is this going to work against the defense? And a lot of these plays that they're running are kind of doomed from the start.
Yep. Chad's in Dallas. What's up, Chad? Chad.
Hey, how's it going?
Hey, good. Chad. We can hear you.
All right, good, great. First off, Paul, love you, man. Thank you for making me a better person.
Oh,
that's very nice.
That sounded sarcastic.
No, sir, not at all. You actually taught me, you can't tell me how to think. I take that in my personal life a lot.
Can't tell you how to think.
I can't tell people how to think. A lot of people in the media will try to tell you how to think. I'm not one of them.
Yes, sir, exactly. But I'm here to talk about the defense. I feel like, I don't know, maybe I'm blowing it all out of proportion, but I feel like everybody's not seeing the big picture on defense. I'm extremely worried about it.
Why?
I'm worried about it is because since even the last year with Tom Brady, our defense hasn't stopped anybody good. Yeah, we got stats on backup quarterbacks and no-name quarterbacks, and we get the stat, and that makes us top 5 defense, whatever, every year since then. But we haven't stopped nobody that truly matters. So I don't understand why everybody's just glossing over the defense. Unless we just going to say defense just truly doesn't matter in the league anymore, and we just got to score 35 for every game, I understand. But I don't understand how you can say rookie cornerback that tore his ACL and still doesn't really know the wide receivers tricks on the field yet. How we can have confidence in him, and then we got a 32-year-old defensive lineman.
Yep. Fair enough. Thanks.
Torn shoulder.
Yeah.
Broken shoulder, not torn ACL.
Right.
Thank God.
Listen. He's
arguing.
He's arguing.
I'm assuming he's talking about.
He's arguing on Paul's side of the street. Paul worries about when you play the better defenses. The numbers go up.
But can I just say, this is a little defense of myself. I think the better defenses in football feast off of bad offenses. That's where their numbers are sort of generated. So they are where they whatever you want to call them, top 5, top 10.
Yeah,
that's where they land in the league. Now, I would say the last couple of years they have had an abnormal amount of backup quarterbacks that they've played, and I don't think that will be the case this year. But I don't want to sit there and say, well, Kansas City's really got a good defense, and that's way better than the Patriots. Well, no, they played against the inept Broncos and the inept Raiders twice. They had no offenses at all. So a lot of teams,
it all evens out.
A lot of teams generate a lot of gaudy stats against bad teams.
Yeah,
it's the Patriots are not unique in that regard.
Right,
yeah.
and a lot of the best offenses are the best offenses for a reason. There's every once in a while in a season there's an elite defense, like the Broncos back a few years.
That was different.
That was different. They would
they
stop
shut
anyone.
We're almost going on a decade.
Yes,
but they shut everybody
down.
Right,
the Ravens back in their day, but those are few and far between. For the most part, the best offenses score points, against any defense.
Against even good defense.
Yeah.
I'd say there's more really good offenses than there are really good defenses. And I said a few weeks ago, it's like there's just a couple defenses that are truly impact the game, and consistently. And then there are other defenses that are opportunistic, and at the right times they make their plays.
In today's NFL, the good defense are the ones that don't beat themselves. They make the offense work for it. In Cleveland, for example. It wasn't a good enough defense to carry them to a Super Bowl, but it was a good enough defense where they were competitive in pretty much every game, despite not having the greatest offense. That's a good defense in today's NFL.
Yeah, that's exactly how I look at it. It's not that defense doesn't matter. It's just that I think our expectations for what's a good defense need to change. Like you mentioned the Broncos, which was 2015. It's 2024. And you mentioned Baltimore, which was 20 years ago now.
Right.
Those defenses, I don't know if the death of that defense might have happened. We might not see the Legion of Boom again. We might not see an early 2000s Baltimore defense again. It could happen once a decade, but I don't know if it's going to be a regular thing because of the way that offensive football is just taken off. So if you can keep your offense in a game against a good quarterback, and the hope is that the offense is pulling the rope a little bit stronger going forward than it has the last couple of years to get you over the top. But the Patriots are not going anywhere unless their offense gets them there.
And
that's the league.
That's really been my larger point about the whole thing, is not telling you how good, bad, or indifferent the Patriots defense is. Some think it's better than I do, I'll admit. But that's, to me, the bottom line is if you're going to be any good, like someone called in, I think, earlier in camp and said, if they can just score 2 or 3 times a game, they can win. No, you can't. You can't win scoring 14, 17, 21 points every game. You can't win like that all the time. Right. You can win games here and there like that.
Yeah.
You can go 4-13 like that, but you're not going 13-4, scoring 2 or 3 times a game.
I mean, last year you would have won 2 or 3 more games than you did. But again, a lot of those games where you kept a team under 10 or less points is because they didn't have a quarterback that game. Like the Jets or...
Well, 2 of them were backup quarterbacks.
Yeah, not Cleveland. The Colts.
The Giants and the Colts.
Right.
And the other one was the Chargers in the pouring rain here.
Right.
And listen, that doesn't mean they didn't play good defense in those games. They did. They did play good defenses.
Right.
They took bad quarterbacks and made them look bad.
Right, but they only scored 7 points.
Right. They could have won those games and been the same team, if you ask me.
I just feel like, you said the good offenses, so we're talking about Kansas City, Miami, Buffalo, like teams like that, San Francisco. They have good stats against everybody. They have good stats against everybody. And, maybe there's a game here and there where a team has a really good game plan or just outplays them that day and their offense doesn't score 35. But I just find me a defense in today's NFL that consistently shuts down
all the good offenses. That's my point.
It doesn't exist.
And then in the fourth quarter, when it gets crunch time, nobody stops anybody. It just seems like last team with the ball.
It's just the bar that I feel like we need to.
All right, let's take a break. We're at the halfway point. We'll be right back after this. Whether you're in the game or betting on the game, you'll need a game plan. DraftKings Sportsbook, the official sports betting partner of the New England Patriots, provides you with everything you need to build your personal betting game plan so you can get in on all the action while practicing safe bets. Visit DraftKings.com/responsible-gaming to learn more about all the safe betting tools DraftKings has to offer. Hope is here, 800-327-5050 or gamblinghelplinema.org. Must be 21 plus. Play it smart from the start. GameSenseMA.com. Physically present in Massachusetts. See DraftKings.com/responsible-gaming for details and state-specific responsible gambling resources.
Isn't it time to get exactly what you want? Welcome to Red Hot Deal Days from Verizon, where you get your pick of our best deals. Like My Plan, where you can pick the perks you want and save on every one. For limited time, bring your own phones to a Verizon store and you can get My Plan for our best price ever. Get exactly what you want in your phone plan and only pay for what you need. Bring your phones to your Verizon store today and get My Plan. These deals won't last. It's your Verizon.
And we are back after a quick hiatus. Tease and Chris back with the PU halftime show. Guys, training camp. Chris, what is it, day 6, day 7?
Day 6 today.
Day 6 today.
Day 6
Let's do a quick debrief from our point of view, what we've seen, what we're surprised by. I'm going to start first.
Okay.
It's first couple days. It's been a little rusty, but the receivers, I think we got a bit of a position battle here. Baker and Polk have been, they kind of hit the ground running, don't you think?
I do, yeah. I mean, Baker, the last 2 practices, day 5 especially, yesterday, I mean, he had the play of the day, went up, got one, brought it down. The crowd was just unbelievable.
Crowd loves it. Loves it.
They are eating up the rookies. And Jaylen Polk, I mean, every time he catches a pass, he runs to the end zone, and he's waving to the crowd. He's like, come on. And they're really enjoying the environment, I think. It's a whole different world for them, really. So I think it goes a long way for them mentally and also as players.
It's a new energy. The vibes are new, but I hate to be that guy, but vibes don't always mean wins. So
that's true.
We got the vibes going, but we got to see on-field results. Chris, as I've been here, this is training camp number 6 for me, I think. And what
number two for me.
Number 2 for you. What I've learned is you don't really know anything until those joint practices. I guess
Right.
the preseason games, but, the preseason games have changed so much. I'm excited for the joint practices. The offensive line has looked a little shaky to me, and I feel like you can't really practice handoffs or the run game in training camp. So I'm really just waiting for August 13th to see how we do against the Eagles.
Yeah, that'll be a good one. I mean, realistically, I think that'll be a great competition for the O-line. But the O-line had an okay day yesterday. Obviously, David Andrews was out for certain reasons, but they're trying to find their roles there and trying to see where they want to fit their guys. They're like Calvin Anderson right now at that right tackle, and I think who's at guard yesterday? I think it was So. I think
it was So.
So
sounds right.
But the O-line's looking pretty good. They opened up some holes for Antonio and Mondre, so we'll see what happens there. Also good to see Antonio back out there off the PUP list and kind of back healthy. Physical's good.
And so what sucks about football is part of the game. Injuries, there have been a lot. Barmore out, unfortunately, indefinitely. Peppers is out for a little.
Yep.
Strange still isn't back. We've seen Kendrick out there, but he's obviously not practicing on the PUP list. But you got to use that next man up mentality. And so who's going to step up? Who has stepped up? Has anybody else stood out for you?
I would say this is going to be a crazy comment, but Jalen Reagor has really showed out for me in camp. I mean, he's created separation with defensive backs. He had an okay day yesterday. I think it was day one of camp. He just decided he was going to be wide receiver 1. And
you know what? That's what you need, though. As I said, there's a position battle, and I hate to be that guy, but right now, nobody truly is sticking out. They're really just like, I'd put them all equal, so it's really just an even race for who's going to make that spot, and it's open. We got Thornton's for year number 3, I believe.
Right.
Reagor just is coming back, so
Thornton has something to prove. He had a good day yesterday. I think he knows that he's on the fringe right now, and he has to prove himself, especially in a very competitive wide receiver room. Again, I think we already mentioned him, but Javon and Jaylen are just kind of carrying the rookie weight right now. And
Polk too. Polk's been doing well too.
Yep. Well, that's what Jaylen.
Oh, Jaylen. Yeah, there you go. Hey, we got Jaylen Hawkins in the back too.
That's true. Yeah. See,
Chris, we got to talk about this too. The quarterbacks.
Yep.
Drake May.
Yep. Drake May.
What do you give him through 6 days? Give him a letter grade.
Through 6 days. Well, it's day 6 right now, but through 5.
5 days.
Through 5, I would give him probably a B at the moment. I mean, I think he needs a little more time with the 1s. He's been working with the 2s for a little while now. We'll see what kind of happens there. But I think Jacoby also, he's had a pretty good camp so far. Yesterday was his best day by far. Confidence-wise, he also looked excited. He was making great throws, especially through the middle in tight coverages. So good day for Jacoby there. I think they have a good competition on their hands at quarterback right now.
So what I will say about the preseason games, I hate them, but I'm excited for Drake May. Perfect example, last year, C.J. Stroud and the Texans came to town. C.J. Stroud looked awful. I was like, there's no way this guy's going to be offensive rookie of the year.
That was Malik Cunningham coming out again.
And so I think that's the one play I'm really excited to see how much they let him do in the preseason game. But strap up, see what he's like when he gets hit, some pressure. So
yeah, it'll be entertaining for sure. I think that'll be week 1 preseason is going to be a big day for Drake May. And quite frankly, I mean, we talk about the guys up at the top, like the 1 and 2. I mean, talk about 3 and 4, Bailey Zappi and Joe Milton.
Yeah. So, Chris, I kind of break training camp up into sessions. We're partial way through session 2. Who do you think is going to step up for the end of session 2?
The end of session 2, I mean, Javon's making a really, really big push for that.
Is he your MVP of this?
I would say so. As of right now, between the first 2 days, I mean, Sunday and Monday, it was just all Javon.
Love it. I agree with you. All right, guys. Back.
When someone accidentally threw away the school play costumes,
oh no!
Replacements were shipped with FedEx. And with picture proof of delivery, everyone could focus on the perfect opening night. FedEx, where now meets next. For residential delivery only.
And now, great moments in history.
Interesting. I want to check out this caller on the Ace Ticket Hotline. Roger.
Oh, I thought you were going with Sweet Kid.
No, Roger's in Foxborough. What's up, Roger?
Are you guys done bitching? Holy moly.
It's Andy Hart.
Hey. We haven't heard from you since the preseason.
Mi amigo con grande cabeza.
We were just about to talk about fullback stances.
We didn't.
Yeah, 3-point stances versus, Did
you take a wide stance with Bill yesterday?
Fullback stance talk, that's my sweet spot.
Did you take a little wide stance with Bill, though? Yeah, I imagine.
Yeah, unfortunately, that was the best question you asked. So.
Did you?
That's another great moment from
Hardly great. Anyway, we're back
I
here.
thought it was the
Patriots
one when he
Unfiltered.
called in and I didn't know it was
Right,
him.
that
and
was
he,
a good
and he
one.
got me.
And
That
it
was
was
a good one.
clearly him.
Oh, it was just like that.
Right.
He wasn't disguising
but he
his
was
voice
Roger
at all.
from Fox.
And,
That was
he started to like make fun of me, and I started to argue with him.
Paul started arguing with him.
And it was Andy.
All right, 855-PATS-500 is the Ace Ticket Hotline. Web radio at patriots.com is the email address. Emails are coming in fast and furious, Paul.
Nice.
Appreciate.
Read some.
First of all, I just want to thank our listeners and our viewers. No matter what time we do this show, you're here. I really appreciate it. I do. I really do.
I think it's a testament to our drawing power.
Well, according to Mason, you're right. He says 2 questions for you beasts. And I bring this up because it's related to one of them. I was sitting at work trying to listen to anything training camp related and regretfully decided that EEI live stream was a good way to do that, and God, was that a miserable experience. Just 3 minutes of grown men complaining disguised as thoughtful insights, followed by a 10-minute break, and then the cycle repeats. And just brought it up to say you are without a doubt the best podcast for anything Patriots related, and genuinely one of my favorite out there. Brings me to my first question: why are these dweebs live streaming from practice and you guys aren't? And my actual question: I went to middle and high school with Steel Chambers. Was wondering if you've seen anything of note there.
Some mop-up linebacker time. I mean, he's bottom of the depth chart right now. Saw him a little bit out there in the opportunity reps at the bottom, but at the end of practice.
We did do the first 4 days live.
Yeah, so everything is video now. If it was just audio, it'd be a different thing. But even the first 4 that we did, you know that we have to turn the cameras off at a certain point. And I just don't think the value is there to do it every day. You know, we really can't say everything that we're seeing. We're not allowed to talk about formations and position groupings and things like that. It's better to let these guys focus on practice, really absorb what's going on, and then come in afterwards and talk about what happened. So we do it on this show. We do it with the training camp podcast. So, like, if you're looking for what happened at camp, you're going to get it. You're going to get it on, like I said, this show and the training camp podcast, which we do after every practice. So I'm good with the way we do it. We will be live again, though, for the joint practice with the Eagles. So we'll be live with that.
Which is August 13th.
Yeah,
I believe.
because that's a little bit different, kind of a tentpole event, if you will, along with the first 4 days of practice. But you know, as you know, Mason, you get it all. We give everything we see after each practice. So I'm good with the way we do it.
I mean, I would just say I think that this is better for the coverage wise. I mean, and it's kind of probably interesting to people that like we don't like we're going to sit like me and Evan are near each other. We're not even talking during practice. Paul's down below, you know, and it's almost a good way to go because now we come in here and we can kind of share the overarching picture rather than it's happening live. We're trying to interpret it. You kind of miss the big picture. I mean, the podcast helps, but I just feel like from a coverage standpoint, I'm able to watch so much more, and we're all watching different things, so we're all bringing separate things rather than we're talking about the same thing. And, you know, it's just I get why people want it live, but I do think there's value.
Can I make a confession? When I don't watch practice with you two, and then when we come together afterwards, we usually wait for the players to come out and they talk, and the three of us will talk about, did you see this? Did you see that? I always feel better when I feel like Mike and Evan saw most of the same things that I saw. Or, you know, like yesterday, I didn't really watch much of the one-on-ones. Evan was telling me some of the one-on-one offensive line stuff. But for the most part, everything else, we kind of saw exactly the same. Now, I don't know if that's because we spend so much time together and we kind of see things the same. Or, like, we watched it from 3 completely different vantage points and came away with the same impressions. And my confession would be, it makes me feel better when you guys see the same stuff.
Oh, sure, it
That's
validates.
my confession.
Like, you know, am I just seeing this, or do two people
Do
that
I make too much of, like, Drake May yesterday? Am I making too much of this?
Well,
Like, no, we all kind of got the same impression.
But there are certain people who are watching that practice that have seen a completely different practice than the three of us have seen.
Which is why I feel better when we see it the same, even when we're not together.
And again, I stress this. I think it's our obligation, responsibility, to really tell our fans what we think is going on, you know, without a filter. without a filter. Yeah, we want.
Ish.
No, I mean we want the team to win. It's better for our jobs if the Patriots win, and we're hoping they win, and we're hoping Drake May is the guy, and we're hoping for all these good things. But we have to be honest. We
Right.
have to be honest, like about, it's not going too well today. Okay, not that we think that it's never going to go well again, or taking.
And I think
cheap
that's what
shots.
happens is when people it's a daily snapshot, and when people are talking about it, like the Globe's headline today really got under the skin of No Socks, right? It was like signs that it's coming apart in Foxborough or something like that.
One day.
But it was a snapshot of that day. I didn't think there was really anything wrong with it. That was what happened yesterday.
Yeah.
Like if the snapshot is now it's irreparably damaged in Foxborough, that's different.
No,
Because
but
we don't
that
know what's going to
headline
happen the
kinda
next
says the
2
same
weeks.
thing.
No, not to
signs
me.
that
it
it's
doesn't.
coming apart. Well, that's not inaccurate. It's signs that it was a bad day. Okay, but that's a lot different than it's coming apart. Because when it comes apart, then you have to
came apart,
you have to repair it over time.
Correct.
Right.
And that's why I said if you say it's irreparably damaged, then I would say that's taking it too far.
Yeah.
I think Gerard Mayo could handle this thing with Matthew Judon really well, and we'd all say, wow, I really like what Gerard did there, and I think the team came together. It wasn't irreparably damaged. He handled it well.
Yeah.
It's a crisis.
But
he's got to deal with it. He's a first-time
It wasn't
coach.
a
He's going
headline.
to have to deal with this
But
stuff.
I saw somebody with a blue check. Has Gerard Mayo lost the locker room?
I hope that was a joke.
I mean, that made me laugh. So 2 guys are disgruntled right now. What about all the guys that are pleased as punch because they just got extended?
Well, that's the problem. This is what Bill used to always argue against.
No, I
by
know,
the way.
but
and
Bill
I think
did
Bill
the
was,
same thing.
And I think Bill was wrong.
Yeah, but Bill did the
Bill
same
was
thing.
wrong.
He
You know why? Because it's the head coach's job to make sure that people understand the message. No, not everybody gets it.
Right.
And this is why he got it. This is why he got it. This is why you didn't.
Right.
That's the head coach's job, to be in charge. Yeah. And that's why I think, now Bill's way around that was no one got it. And I don't think that was the way to do it either. This is the opposite. They were able to extend and re-sign a lot of guys.
Yep. And they chose not so far to do 2.
But part of the part of the trick is, like I always say with baseball GMs at this time of year with the trade deadline, identify the prospects that aren't going to be great players and trade them for guys that you think are going to be great players. That's the hard part.
Right.
Identifying who gets it and who doesn't and being right is the hard part.
It is. And but it is a business, and not everyone's going to be happy. But because 2 guys are disgruntled doesn't mean he's lost the locker room.
No, that's silly.
I mean, come on.
Blue check mark.
Hysterics.
Be better.
Hysterics.
In their defense, too, I actually kind of agree with the hard line that they're drawing with some of the older players on the roster, and it's a tough.
I'm absolutely on board with it.
It's a tough pill to swallow, but you look at the extensions that they did hand out. It was Barmore, it was Ramondre Stevenson, it was guys that are going into their second contracts, maybe a few that were going into third contracts, but still on the right side of 30. Whereas Gotcha's going to be 30 this year, Judon's going to be 32. And they're drawing the line at age. Like, that seems to be where they're at is, we're going to pay the guys that we feel like a Jabril Peppers. He's 28 years old, that have a couple years that we feel like in their prime, that they still have left.
God forbid, maybe they realize this isn't going to be the year. If we were close, we'd give Judon the boat with the bag, But maybe...
The boat.
Or the bag, the boatload, I was thinking. But maybe they realize, this is a building year. This is a year to be patient. This is a year, if we're going to sign people, we know they're going to be here for a few years. Judon's not that guy, maybe. That could be what they're thinking. And it's too bad for Matt Judon. I don't blame him.
Yeah,
I don't blame him at all.
And I think there's got to be a compromise that can be reached there where you give him some more money to satisfy him in the short term.
Look,
so just understand that, Matthew, you're probably not going to be a part of our next really good team.
Yeah, I'd double him up. I'd double what he's making this year. I'd give him 14, 15 million.
Yeah, I mean, but nobody wants to go into 2025, right? Like, that's...
I do not want to go into 25 with either one of those guys. Now, the other guy is going to, I think, get interesting with Barmore's situation. Does that? I mean, I know they're different kinds of players, and he's still an early down player. But does that make him more important?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Now.
About. Does that make him more important?
Maybe.
I mean,
when you look at actual experience,
do you need a
Just
you
NFL
need a
lineman.
veteran, yes,
Yeah,
like
just-
a guy that you know that you can rely on. Like
he could have said to
Amon
Barmer,
Watts.
"Hey, can you get some blood clots for me so that I can?" Just a joke.
Gallows humor. Amon Watts, like, is he good enough to be like Lawrence Guy? So
Right.
you have him and Gotcha, and you could probably get by there. I don't know.
But still, you're looking at him and Dietrich Wise as I mean, you throw Watts in the mix, but those two are all that's left. You know, like those are the only guys who are experienced defensive
Like we've seen a lot of
linemen.
Daniel Aquale. I don't like the idea of him playing.
No,
every
I mean,
down.
and he's been kind of a journeyman. I mean, he was like, the fifth off defensive
See,
lineman.
this is where you need Bill, because he would be like, "All right, we need to change things up. We don't have that guy in the middle that is going to be that disruptive. That's going to draw two people almost on every play. So we're going to have to be a little creative here."
I mean, I'm imagining last year's pass rush without Barmore. I mean, that's what you're looking at right now. It's,
Right.
It's not.
I mean, how many
point.
times when we're looking through those binoculars, there are two men on Barmore, and he's still pushing him back.
Mike evidently was only in road games because it was just their little game.
Well,
Mike and I were in this studio.
Where are we going to watch it?
Well, we watch from the game.
Let's see. Barry writes in.
actually
I've been hearing about the edge player Jimenez doing well. If he is a dude, then I think our pass rush will still be there as long as Judon stays and is healthy, and either Jimenez or Watts or Aquale steps up with the Barmore absence. It won't be as good, but that doesn't mean Covington and Mayo are going to have to be creative with the front seven. I'm optimistic if it comes down to this, they can dial up pressures without giving up much on the back end with our great corner and safety depth. Well,
great corner depth. Where is the great corner depth?
Geez. No, I got two. I got two guys.
I like their corners.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's
I
a great
like
corner.
the- I
It's
like
not
the-
2014.
I
but
like the starters, but where's the great depth?
Well, I feel like we know at this point that Marcus Jones and Alex Austin can play in the league. Are they number one corners? No, of course
I'm counting
not.
Marcus Jones as a starter, which might be wrong on my part. But like Alex Austin, that's great depth.
I think he was solid last year down the stretch. I mean, as your fourth cornerback, like as a guy that's going to just play situationally.
I don't know. Like I think you need three. So if one guy gets hurt, you're okay with Alex Austin. I'm not sure. That's
how many
Sean
teams
Wade?
go four deep in their cornerback room? With quality.
I'm not talking about the other teams.
I know.
I would say that anybody that goes four deep has good cornerback depth.
Yeah.
So I don't think the Patriots would fall into that category. And I'm sorry, like, how do you pronounce it? Jimenez?
It's not Jimenez?
Jimenez.
There's been 6 practices. I saw him once. He came off the edge and had a sack yesterday.
Yeah.
I noticed him once.
He had a good practice yesterday.
Yeah.
Where is this, like,
I don't
if
know.
he's a dude?
Somebody must have wrote something that people are reading.
I mean, I wrote a little bit in the trench report that you can read about
He came
yesterday.
I know a play. He
Yeah.
came off the edge, off the left side. I can see it in my mind's eye.
Yeah.
And he got right around the corner and had an easy sack.
Yeah, he had another one that was just an unblocked on a scheme rush type thing, and then he was okay in the one-on-ones. But is he a dude? No, I would say maybe he's a guy. Like he could be someone that could be on the team, but he's certainly not a dude.
Like I just look at the team as being paper thin to start with, and you're taking 2 of their best players, and possibly, and I don't want to be an alarmist, but Barmore's probably not going to be part of the picture, and who knows what's going to happen with Judon. 2 of their best players you take out, and it's just like, I'm not worried about it. We can scheme it up, and we can do that.
No.
Like, I'd be deathly afraid of it.
No,
I wouldn't just be
This
worried
guy-
about it.
When you talked about why the Patriots are going to be at least as good as they were defensively last year, in the conversation was Barmore and Judon's coming back, and you didn't have
Judon
him
and
last
Gonzalez
year.
coming
Yeah,
back.
Right.
Now it's only Gonzalez coming back.
Right. No, it's a big loss.
And as much as I like
it was
Gonzalez,
a rough day yesterday.
and I'm not going to be a fraud because I really like Gonzalez, and I am in on Gonzalez. But as much as I like him, he played 4 games. Like, I don't know that he is like.
I know.
Yeah.
I think he is too, Fred.
You can just tell us the fluidity.
He had up a lot of completions.
He wears
in
number
camp,
0.
so
Right,
such
they
a
all
fluid
do it.
guy, but
No, the fluidity. It's
I
the
think he's pretty good.
hips.
But like, does that mean I'm right? What if he's not Richard Sherman in his prime.
Well, now we got trouble.
Yeah, and if they got no pass
But I
rush,
think everybody's just that's a foregone conclusion.
I'm like a little worried about Deuce being at the red level going forward. We might need to put him on the ground because he might jump over there.
Put a mattress.
Is that what's happening up there?
I can tell just
that what's happening
by
up there?
listening and watching him that he's very worried about what's going on.
You're talking about the two guys that like they
I
actually.
think it's a bit of a house of cards,
about.
to be honest with you, defensively. I
Paul,
think
you're enabling me right now. You're pushing me down the ledge, but
I don't think there's a ton of talent to begin with. I don't think there's a ton of depth because obviously if your frontline players aren't all that good, you don't have guys behind them that are any better.
Yep.
I mean,
you get a couple of well-placed injuries, and
I mean, you remember like 2009, 2010 around here when there were no edge guys kind of
Brandon McGowan era.
You're getting like Derek Burgess off the scrap heap. You're bringing back Tully Banta-Kane. You know, like you're desperate, and those are some of the worst defenses that we saw in here in the last 20 years. So, you know, if I was true to myself, I would say I'd much rather have two dudes at pass rusher than two dudes at cornerback. You know, and that's. I don't know. It's a defensive philosophy thing. It's
Bill Belichick.
Control the line of scrimmage, and we can plug the Randall Gaze of the world back there, and they'll be okay. But nobody can cover forever, and if you're just not disruptive up front, it's hard to see. And is the run defense going to be as good as it was last year, where at least third and longer, right? Because you're successful on first down, so you're not in these situations where there's no win for the defense because they can do whatever they want. So it's a real concern.
About Deuce.
Yeah,
worried about you.
Oh, you got me worried about him now. I have to see you guys force me to worry about a lot of things.
Nick and Raleigh writes in, before training camp, all the talk was Drake May's footwork. Did you guys see improvement over the past few days?
I don't know what
maybe a little bit. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I feel like we're nitpicking a lot of things with Drake May right now, so I want to tread a little bit lightly with tearing him completely apart, but he does look a little off balance to me at times with his feet and a little bit of a wide base, but it's that to me is
right
not
now the footwork isn't the issue.
Yeah.
Not the issue.
No, it's
Correct.
learning the offense, and that's getting in time, and I think all those things are connected. It's not so simple that they're just like, well, let's just go work on footwork drills. Like that's fine, they'll do that, but the bigger problem is knowing where to go. I mean, we go back to the McDaniels thing that we did with Paul. Just so much of it was done pre-snap where his feet were going to be set. He knows where he's going with the ball. He knows exactly, how he wants to set things up. So it's all connected.
Yeah, I would say that, maybe like get him on the jump rope, maybe. Like his feet are a little heavy. And he's athletic.
Such a good athlete.
Yeah,
too.
like he's a runner. But I don't know if he's got the agility, like dance around the pocket thing quite yet. But like I said, I don't want to completely tear him down. But if he was on time, if he was playing in rhythm, then I think his feet would look better. Yeah. When you're out of rhythm, your feet are out of whack, and that's when the whole thing goes.
Dorian writes in, seems like Booty is having a solid camp, and the legal issues are resolved. Are you guys more impressed by him or Rager? Also, has Baker made enough splash plays to put pressure on potentially being in that starting X-receiver role?
Not yet. I don't know. I mean, he's making some plays, but I wouldn't consider him like making a push.
I just don't know who. I just don't know who at X receiver you're playing over him at this point. Like KJ Osborne probably, and I would think that Osborne's going to be in the mix, but Javon Baker, Jaylen Polk, Pop Douglas, like that. By the time the season's over, you hope that those are the three guys that are getting the bulk of the snaps because they've earned it, not just because you're throwing them out there, but because they've earned it. And I think so far in practice you're on track for that. But just like all the things with Drake May, it might not happen overnight. Like it could be a little bit, but in terms of what we're seeing, I would say that those three guys are on track right now to finish the year as their top three receivers, but it probably will start with Osborne, Bourne's healthy, Kendrick Bourne, those guys.
Bourne might be the guy, but I would look at Baker and say I don't think he's ready for that kind of a role, but Evan's right. I don't know who I would say is the guy because Bourne hasn't been able to practice. He does, he was out there again today with his uniform on, not in pads, but I would think that means that he's getting closer and closer, and I think PUP to start the season is probably off the table based on the amount that we've seen him. I mean, I might be reading too much into that.
Yeah.
He would be the guy that I would have, because I don't know. I thought today, in particular, Baker struggled. He looked like he was kind of tired today. I thought Do you remember a couple of those deep balls that he ran under and he showed this like sort of explosiveness to get the ball?
Yeah.
He didn't have that gear today. There was a one-on-one late down the on the right field, down the left sideline, and the ball was in the air. He was sort of stride for stride with the defensive back, and I was expecting him to separate, and he never did. And I talked about that crossing route in team play, 11-on-11, where it just looked like he kind of throttled down and couldn't. I thought May put the ball in a catchable spot, and he didn't go and get it.
Yeah.
So I think he struggled a little bit today. I wonder if he's a little sort of
feeling
that kind of fight through those day 6 now. A lot of running for those receivers.
Kind of felt like that for Drake too, a little bit. Just they're rookies. It's their first training camp, first 2 days in full pads. This is the part of the training camp, even for us, to an extent that it becomes a little bit of a grind.
Yeah.
And I did kind of notice that with some of the younger guys that maybe, even Caden Wallace I thought was a little shaky today, and yesterday I was really impressed. I was like, oh, they might have something here yesterday. And today, was a little bit rookie.
I think with Baker too, it's like it's good. It's encouraging to see the quarterbacks understand his skill set and be willing to kind of the play with May today to end it, just to toss it up to him. Like it just seems like they are like, this guy can make some plays, and like that's one play, make it or not. May chose to go to him. So, and I'd say similar with Polk. It's good to see these young receivers getting targets, and the quarterbacks aren't icing them out. I remember going so long with Taekwon stuff where it'd be like one catch every 3 days, and you'd be like, oh, finally, and
there it is.
And it's like Polk is just like, up or down, he is out there, and he's consistently, getting targeted. And those, that's how you get better, and it's encouraging to them that the quarterbacks are looking towards them and showing some trust in them.
And I think, again, that's part of what we talked about earlier in the show. Like, they don't have, quote unquote, a starting set of receivers.
Yeah.
So all of those guys are getting all of the reps.
Yep.
So they're getting a ton of targets.
Yep.
All of them. I mean, like, it's not just Polk and Baker. It's Rager, it's Booty, it's
Thornton lately.
Thornton had a couple of nice catches yesterday. He was quiet today. But even I thought Juju Smith-Schuster was open a ton today. Had another horrific drop near the sideline. Did you guys see?
I guffawed at that one.
I
guffawed.
Did you? But he had like 3 or 4. He had a nice touchdown catch.
From Joe Milton on a rocket.
Yeah, from that was Milton, right?
Almost threw it through him.
But he was open today more than I've seen him open in the previous 5 days. Did he trip over a rock or something? He said after practice. Did you see that?
That's what he told somebody. Yeah. I didn't hear it. I got a hearsay of someone said, "Yeah, Baker, Juju said he tripped over a rock over there or something."
Yeah,
on the field.
Yeah.
The route that he ran on the touchdown catch from Milton today was like a glance, like a 5-step slant. Yeah. That was probably the best route I've seen him run all summer.
Yeah.
Like he actually
ran
an explosive route, and I was like, whoa.
Like, put it right on.
Yeah, but he's one of those guys that at this point of his career, it's 1 in every 10 routes. He's got that juice, and that's just not consistent.
He was
enough.
open today, though. I just can't understand how you can drop that pass that he did near the sideline.
That was gross. But just the hard thing, though, is like, how do you suss all this out? Like, where it's like one day you get a few catches here, and like
I just was trying to make the point, like, because they don't have frontline receivers,
right? Everybody's getting
all of those guys are playing with Brissett. All of those guys are playing with May. All of those guys are playing with Milton or Zappi, whoever happens to get the 3rd reps that day. And then you're seeing a sprinkling of like 82 and 86. And you guys can do that on your own time.
Jaquan Jackson and Kayvon Baker is who you're talking about.
Yeah, them.
Yeah.
Jaquay.
Right.
It might be Jaquay.
Jeffrey in Canada writes in, I'll preface this with, I know Patriots fans are spoiled. I heard Fred's opening speech, and you're right. My question is, how long do we have to keep acknowledging we're spoiled before we can complain? I mean, you can complain all you want. I'm just hyperbole.
Fred, you don't tell them how they should feel.
No, I'm just saying the overreaction is what I'm worried about. Anyway, he says, my complaint. What is being described to us by the media is a 5th straight season of below-average offense in training camp in a league full of constant player movement, a draft that is ordered worst to first, and the 3rd highest cap space going into this offseason. This seems almost impossible that we're not better. I do have a question about Drake May. What do you think about making him develop with the 2nd and 3rd string players? Is this the best strategy for him to develop, or would you like to see Drake May take reps with the first team? Well, that's what we talked about earlier. It's like,
hold on.
it's just the O-line.
Yeah.
I just got finished explaining. Their version of first-string players he's been with.
Yeah.
For receivers, for
Skill
tight ends,
players.
for running backs. Like,
everybody.
Yeah.
It's just the offensive
He doesn't
line.
get a ton of Hunter Henry, but that's not the big
But
I'm
who
not
cares?
making a huge deal out of that.
Yeah.
But his tight end is usually Mitchell Wilcox.
Yeah.
But the big thing to me to answer the question that I worry about a little bit is that because he's behind this offensive line that's really not doing him any favors. You worry about it frustrating him, and that's snowballing on him a little bit. Where we talked so much about Mac, getting rattled by the pressure last year and getting sped up and that sort of thing. And even though you don't think of that in practice because he's not getting hit to the ground, you do worry about it a little bit. That when Mafi's snapping the ball on his shoelaces, and then he's looking up and there's pressure in his face already, and then it's guys, what do you want me to do with this? And you just don't want that frustration to fester.
It's up to the coaches. They got to make sure, they got to be aware of that.
I think he'll get some more time too with the first line as well.
Yeah. Jeffrey also says Jacoby feels like a 9-8 ceiling, and that's if everything goes well.
Sign me up for that.
That's if everything goes well. I'd rather just make May the starter and take our lumps. Even if we're 3-14, it's actually better than 9-8.
I disagree strongly with that last sentence. But 9-8 would qualify as something that Jacoby Brissett has never done.
Yeah.
But
and also,
as it may.
if May's not ready, he shouldn't play.
I agree.
If he's not ready,
if he's not significantly improved from where he's at right now, then he's not playing. It's not even a conversation. He's not playing at this rate. There's no reason for him to play. It's not even so much that I don't think that he could maybe be a gamer, and be a little bit better in the games and in practice. But what's the rush?
Right.
Why are you forcing him out there when he's clearly still trying to get a feel for some of the nuances?
Now, believe it or not, I still think in the next 3 weeks you're going to see a big improvement.
I wouldn't be surprised.
It'd be nice.
You find that, you think that we're going to find that hard to believe that you feel like that?
I believe it.
No, of course not. But
believe it or not, I think that the guy is really going to be as good as anybody who's ever played this game.
I still trust my instincts on this one.
Yeah, I think yesterday, though, for me, as somebody who's been saying just play him, it's the realization of maybe we can't just play him. The reality is he really might not be ready yet to jump in the fire. I still think it's a lost year if he goes this whole year.
Oh,
and then it's and then it's kind of a disappointment about his development, but. What we looked at yesterday, it's a reminder that this kid, 21-year-old kid's first NFL practice in pads, and he couldn't quite get it all going yet. I mean,
I want him to play. I just am realistic. I don't think it's going to be right away. But if it was the whole season, I do think that would be a really bad sign that they felt he did not progress enough to warrant.
At the very least, mop up time when they're getting smoked. He's got to get in there. He's got to have a
complete aside here and kind of irrelevant. That last thing that in that email. Would you guys rather be 3 wins than 9?
No.
That's a bit if you want to tell me I'd rather go 3-14 than 6-11, I could sort of understand that. But 9?
No.
9 means you've made progress. You're starting a culture. You're on the precipice. You're either in the playoffs or you're close. There's a lot of teams that sort of make the progression from really bad to mediocre to good.
Oh no!
That's the Detroit Lions.
If you tell me Drake May's not going to play this year, Jacoby is, and you're going to win 9 games, I'm like, let's go, because next year when Drake May gets thrown in, he's thrown into a team that just won 9 games.
Yeah, I think that would be a ridiculously positive sign.
That's sort of how I feel. Not 9 wins, but where I am starting to see some progress from the offensive line, and the 2 young receivers are flashing a little bit, where, all of us wish it was Drake May that was the one that was quarterbacking the offense. But even if we come out of the first, this training camp, let's not even talk about the season yet. If you come out of this training camp saying, well, we have some pieces on the line now we feel pretty good about. Caden Wallace seems like a player. He's a starting tackle potentially in the league. These 2 young receivers can potentially play in the league as well. And now you start to feel like the foundation around the quarterback is elevated a little bit. Yeah. And when Drake's time comes, his time comes. Yeah.
And if you really think, they had a good draft.
Yeah.
They had, Elliott Wolf's first draft was a really good one. And it actually was. I mean, I know it's going to be considered a good one, regardless of what happens, because that's just what we do around here. But it actually was a good draft.
No, I mean, you get Wallace, Polk, and Baker. I mean, leave May out of it.
We hope it is. We don't know.
No, but I'm saying it was a good, what Evan said. Like, if Caden Wallace plays the whole year and no one's saying,
yeah,
wow, what a train wreck that was
then
at
it was
tackle,
a good, yes.
then
it
you know he looks like a good pick.
Yeah.
You know, like he actually is a good pick,
That's
not like
That's
you know
that's
we
a
just
huge win.
sort of deem him because he's on the team. It makes him a good pick,
Yeah.
which is what we've done for the last 3 or 4 drafts for Bill Belichick. Like 21, everybody would, oh, look at this guy, look at that guy. Well, like, can we let him play a couple of games before we just deem that a great pick?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, they're all gone, right? It's like, who's left?
Yeah.
Barmore
and Ramondre?
That's it.
2 guys is close to a good draft. Usually they say 3 is a good
You know
draft,
what?
so they were.
I would say that wasn't bad.
Yeah. This is a
Now,
decent draft.
obviously, drafts get graded a little bit differently when a quarterback's involved, and you took a first-round
But at the
quarterback,
time,
and he
all
was a
4
train
of them
wreck.
were going to be all pros.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
the
Like,
fourth guy.
wow, what a draft, until they're all not on the team 3 years later.
Yeah, Jaylen Polk fascinates me though. Like goes against every fiber of my being. Like watching this guy because I just don't see like a ton of explosiveness out of him, but he catches a lot of passes. And when the ball's thrown his way, for the most part, he did have the one we talked about earlier where I thought he had a chance to catch it. But, you know, he goes over, was it Marco Wilson in the corner of the end zone? Then he catches the little out from
that was a
Brissett,
good catch.
you know,
I
on
know that. I remember
Sean
that
Wade.
play.
And he's just catching all these passes. And I think the one thing that Deuce and I talked about was after the catch. Is he going to bring any sort of juice down the field or after the catch? Or is he going to be, not that there's anything wrong with it, but is he going to be like a Jacoby Myers that, you know, gets his 10, 11 yards per catch? And that's sort of who he is, and that's all he brings to the table. He gets open, but it's not open. It's just enough.
Right.
And he's got great hands.
Well, that's what Pop Douglas is for.
If you had to say right now, in camp, do you think he averaged 10 or 11 yards a catch? Because I would say no.
Probably not. Probably like 8 or 9.
Well, he had a couple downfield that would bring up the average, didn't he?
Polk?
Yeah. Some 50-50 balls.
One today, and then he had...
I don't remember anything downfield to him.
No?
That looks...
When I say downfield, I mean like 20 yards.
Yeah, he had the one today was probably about 17, 18 yards down the field.
Okay.
Yeah.
But
that brings up the average.
But that I'm with you, Paul, but that's...
I think he's got about 34-yard crossers.
Right. But the question is that if maybe he's better after the catch than I think he is, then all of a sudden those 4-yard, you know, those little 6-yard outs that he's catching.
Was he in college?
Not necessarily.
Okay, so he won't be.
He's going to run over guys, not run through guys.
Yeah,
He'll run
he
away
just
from
doesn't.
guys.
He doesn't have that like.
He ain't gonna run over guys in the NFL.
He's pretty good. He's not pretty size. He's like 6'1", 210.
Baker has
He's
that
okay.
extra gear though. Like whether it's when the ball's in the air or with the ball in his hands, like Baker's got some juice. Like he's got an extra gear that he can throttle down and pull away from a defense every once in a while. But I just don't necessarily see that from Polk. So like, Paul, is he going to be this like inefficient 65 catch guy for 700 yards, which is like fine? But
when it comes to those physical traits, if they don't have him in college, it's hard to get him. You know, you don't become, 4.3 in the pros when you weren't that in college.
And I'm waffling on him because there are plays. Like you could see plays and you can see the stuff that Mike talks about.
Production. He'll have production.
Yeah, that's not production. Like I don't care how many catches to me isn't production.
To me it is.
Yeah, I understand that, but just you would never say a running back was productive because he had 20 carries in the game. You would never say that.
No, but if he had
he had 20 carries for 40 yards, you would never say he was productive. He had 20 carries.
Yeah, but I think that carries is different than catches.
Well, to me, it's not unless you do something with the catches and you do something with the carries.
Well, if the catch is for a first down or if it's, then
right,
it's
then that's productive.
Right.
The stuff that he's catching in practice for the most part is not resulting in first downs.
How do you know?
Because they're like 3-yard passes.
Well, maybe it was 3rd and 2.
Okay.
I'm serious. I mean, like Leonard Myers is not Leonard Myers. Jacoby Myers is he didn't have a lot of yards.
Jacoby Myers was productive,
but he didn't have a lot of yards.
But he didn't catch up all his passes within like a yard of the line of scrimmage.
And neither is Polk. Come on.
The vast majority of the passes that he has caught have been shallow crosses or quick outs.
Yeah, 7 yards sometimes.
No.
Yeah.
No. No way.
You're being a little extreme.
Now, listen, I said I'm waffling because there have been some plays the last 2 days in pads, and I've been saying this about him. You guys, Mike, and I say Mike and Evan, told me a lot about him post-draft, about his physicality and his ability to carve out space. I've seen that with pads on.
Yeah.
And I thought that he might look better with pads on than he did without them because the lack of explosiveness isn't as noticeable.
You don't see that
when you're carving out space.
Sure.
Yeah.
So if that's the kind of guy
today,
he is, then that's a good asset to have.
Yeah.
And I have seen signs of that yesterday and today. Today especially, I thought he made a lot of catches. Today, like that.
Yeah. There's so many examples. So he ran a 4.54 in the 40-yard dash, and we talk a lot about how the 40-yard dash isn't always everything for receivers. And there's so many examples of guys that went on to have amazing NFL careers in that range of the 40-yard dash. I think of like Keenan Allen and Michael Thomas and like those types of players. But like those guys to me were played much faster than what I see so far out of Polk. But like there's a possibility that he is one of those types of guys that just plays a little bit faster than he times and is just a good football player and is physical and all those types of things. And we've seen that in a little bit, I think, in flashes. But I'm with Paul. I don't know what to make of it yet.
Like, I'm not out on him. I'm not telling you I'm out on him.
It's interesting hearing you kind of go back and forth on it.
I'm waffling. I'm definitely waffling because I do see some of the stuff that you two told me about. I've seen some of that manifest on the field. But I've also seen the Vincent Brisby stuff that I talk about all the time. It's just like, that's what he is now. In 2 years, 3 years, there's not going to be much gas there.
The catch that he made today in the corner of the end zone, I think it was over Marco Wilson. Like those down the field, that's how he's going to win down the field. And in college at Washington, Penix has great ball placement down the field. So he was on such a great like chemistry between the two guys where they knew like put it on this shoulder or put it up or put it, where you were going to place it around the defender. And I think some of these downfield targets that we've seen from Polk that haven't been successful, I'm hoping that with more time with the quarterbacks, he'll say to him, hey, if the defender is like on my inside hip, I like the back shoulder. Or if he's on top of me, throw it up and I'm going to go up and get it. And then those completions, those are the little things that change those incompletions into more completions.
Yeah, I'd say there were maybe like two passes that I was just a little bit disappointed in because at Washington, aerial guy, like him flying through the air, he caught a bunch of passes. And then again, I think that's part of his game. There's been a couple of these dropped though, and I think to your point, that's what it is. It's tight, jumping. So
the ones that have me concerned, there was a early in practice he ran a quick out on Marco Wilson, and like Wilson was it was like maybe 5 yards, and I think I'm being generous. And Wilson was like right in his shirt. And they went up, and he had his hand in between Polk's hands. Polk made the catch.
Strong hands. Yeah.
But I'm thinking, wow, for 4 yards.
It's a battle.
And it's Marco Wilson.
Oh, no, Marco Wilson is a 5-year veteran. But my point is, that's an awful lot of work for not getting any separation at all.
Yeah.
Like, that's what kind of worries me. But the play that you guys are talking about in the end zone, there was a little separation, and he did go up and make that play that you guys have been telling me that's his calling card, and he can make those kind of physical plays. So I see that, too. That's why I'm waffling, which is very rare for me. Usually I'm in or out.
Yeah.
Tom writes in, if I'm not mistaken, Judon's still under contract for this year. What took place yesterday with the disrespect show toward his teammates, coaching staff, leadership, and ownership, I think Judon should be traded as value to try to get another defensive lineman or upgrade the wide receiver position.
I just think that your expectations have to be lowered of what he's worth. You're not going to – I don't think you're going to get a player that's worth trading for right now for Matthew Judon. The trades, especially this time of year, the value just isn't there, and that's where
but for a team that just needs that little over the hump.
But do they have a disgruntled defensive lineman?
No, but
because you're only going to get a defensive lineman in return if
that's true.
Someone's in the same kind of situation.
Yeah, because you're going to that's true.
Yeah,
but I agree with everything else he said. I thought it was disrespectful what he did yesterday, and I would strongly consider trading him, but it's probably going to be for a draft pick.
Yeah, it's be for a draft pick, and the windows to maximize his value are in March.
Can we get a 3?
But with the draft coming up, and then probably at the trade deadline.
I think you can get a day 2 pick.
Yeah,
at the trade deadline.
Yeah, if a team is desperate and like a contender, and they either look at it as, to your point, a piece to put them over the top, or they had a rash of injuries at edge rusher, and the Niners are looking for edge guys, and they still they have this Super Bowl team, then maybe.
It's just kind of tough though because Judon will be hip to that plan, right? Like, I don't know. It doesn't seem like, and I like that plan, But is he going to like that plan? Is he going to know? Is he going to just feel like a lame duck here?
Well, he's
for the
going to like
2
the
months?
plan for whoever pays him
For money. He just and
Yeah.
he'll be
if
be
he
a
can
good
go
citizen.
somewhere else and they
Yeah.
might give him what he's looking for a contract. And he said the right things that day by saying I don't want to be traded, but you think he'd be really bad if he was traded?
Not now.
Not to a good team.
If he gets his bag.
I just remember going back to his introductory press conference with the Patriots. He was honest with us then, and he's been such a cool guy to cover.
Yeah.
I feel like the last couple of years that I almost forgot. But his 2021 press conference, someone asked him point blank, why did you pick the Patriots? And he said, because they paid me the most money. And then he went out and he balled out, to his credit, and he was this cool guy in the locker room, a lot of energy, really good teammate by all accounts. But now you're starting to see the business side of it creep back in for him a little bit.
Which again,
the business side of the business.
Yeah, he has every right to hold out, hold in, whatever for more money. But what he did yesterday was wrong.
I agree.
That was wrong. Steve in Texas, if Polk is Jacoby Myers, do we consider that a bust?
No.
I wouldn't.
No.
I'm hoping for more, but I wouldn't consider that a bust. I think Jacoby Myers was a good player for this team. And he was a good player for the Raiders last year.
Yeah, I'm with Paul. I wouldn't consider him a bust. Now, you would like that Javon Baker is like a compliment to that. Like if
some explosion.
If Jaylen Polk's kind of the steady Eddie, then you would hope that Javon Baker is maybe not as consistent, but is a little bit flashier.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what I thought these two guys were going to be when they drafted them. Just watching them before the draft, and that's exactly who they've been through 6 days of camp. It's one guy is the underneath guy that's going to pick up 7 or 8 yards and move the chains. And the other guy, once every practice, he's going to make a catch that you're like, wow, that's a hell of a catch.
Audrey in New Hampshire writes in, wow, a room of naked knees. Looking good, Paulie, in your UNC gear. I was going to have Paul dress up like that Italian diver today that's going around the internet. Have you seen that?
The guy who won last night?
No, that's a swimmer.
Oh, that's a swimmer.
This guy's
right.
a diver.
Diver.
He
got a little something extra up front.
Yeah, he was.
I could see why you would think
he's a standout.
I could see why you would think of me then.
Yeah.
Evidently, they have some
he's
ridiculous.
He's packing some heat. Okay.
Yeah.
Heavy.
I gotcha.
Yeah.
Packing heavy heat.
It's got a little diving board going on in there.
What are we talking about now?
Anyway, look it up. His name is Boyer or something like that. I already looked.
Boyer.
Obviously, we fans need patience because so much is new. All the conversation about what a good season looks like is so varied. But to me, I'm most interested in whether or not this is going to be a competent coaching staff. I think it's rare that all top positions are newbies. Do they all work together well? I'm certainly hoping for the best. But until the base system of learning, teaching, and execution is adapted and synced, I think he says, synced up, it's hard to expect players to really elevate to their potential. And Paul, you said you sat with Andy again. He keeps improving in his new work. Pretty likely to be an Andy Hart show at some point in the near future.
Oh.
Think so?
From
He's
heart to
gonna get
heart.
his own show?
Probably not, but I'm here for it. I'll ride his coattails if he'll let me. What do you guys think of
Andy?
I think it's a good point about the coaches. Like, what's a successful season? But how would you guys deem it, like, when you watched and said, yeah, these guys did a good job in their first year as coaches?
Scrappy team with some guys that emerge. And you see guys improving, and they keep fighting, They don't beat themselves.
What you just said. They don't beat themselves. They limit the mistakes. They shore up special teams, compared to what it was last year. We're not hearing about nonsense in the locker room. Things like, all the things of a buttoned-up team.
Yeah, the one thing I guess Detroit, I think, is the best example I can think of is with Dan Campbell. Is everybody's pulling on the rope. The rope is all being pulled, and it's being pulled in the right direction, and there's not all these ulterior motives, and all that kind of stuff kind of dies down a little bit. But in terms of the actual on-field coaching, I feel pretty good about the defense because even though you can argue that he wasn't necessarily qualified to be a head coach yet, Gerard was certainly qualified to be a defensive coordinator. And I think he's going to run the defense alongside with Covington. I think that he's going to have a big hand in things. And we'll see about Van Pelt. I thought there was an interesting quote about, from the Browns GM yesterday talking about why they hired Ken Dorsey, and it kind of connected. And a lot of the things that they said were, we want to use more motion, we want to be better in the drop back game, we want to incorporate more RPOs. It was sort of the things that we were talking about a little bit when they hired Van Pelt. Like, that scheme in Cleveland got a little stale, got a little old school, got a little stale. So is he able to adapt or add things or whatever that are a little bit more, I hate to use the word modern because everybody picks on that phrase, modern offense, but like that is a little bit more innovative than what they were doing.
I want to go back to something you think is going to happen though. Gerard running the defense, is that good? Do we want him spending his time running the defense?
Personally, I do. Now, like, if he wants to become more of like the floater and the CEO coach 4 or 5 years down the line when he's been doing this for a little bit, then I'm all for that. But now, like, does he really know a ton about offense?
No, I'm not saying he should be running the offense, but there's a lot to being a head coach besides coordinating. Is it a risk to have him spend so much time focused on defense and not just the overall team?
Yeah, I wonder if in Houston their structure right now is like that overall team stuff is Nick Caserio. Like Nick Caserio, not necessarily in the locker room, but like all the like CEO type stuff of going into head coach.
Okay.
And D'Amico is on the side with the play sheet calling the defense on Sundays. Like he's running the defense. And with these younger coaches, I like stick to what you know. Like you're not Bill Belichick where you can have your hand in every single pot and be able to know exactly which buttons to push. I think that's a lot to ask of him right now.
I like that Houston thing, inadvertently gave me some confidence. Like, that is how it's set up. It's Caserio has the final say, and he's in charge of everything, and he has, the young defensive-minded coach under him, and it's, at least 1 year it worked. That gives me some confidence that it can work like that here, too. Like, because I've sort of been critical what happens when there's an impasse, but they've made it work a little bit, so we'll see. But the back to the email about the coaching, and I understand his point about like, maybe they won't be, the most successful team wins and losses, but like, can you know it when you see it when a team looks like they're buttoned down and disciplined in avoiding those mistakes. And I'm not gonna lie, these 2 days in pads have me a little concerned about the discipline. Yeah. The amount of false starts and rehuddles and offensive laps. And I'm glad that they're addressing it. I think Gerard's doing a good job of trying to nip it in the bud. And listening to Austin Hooper yesterday, he was great. He's like, listen, these things that we're not doing don't require any talent.
Yeah.
The things that, the pre-snap penalties, that doesn't require any talent at all. To come out here, you understand that you're jacked up first day of pads and everybody wants to hit. But you need to keep your mental approach in the appropriate spot, and we have to be accountable. And then he finished it all off by saying, you have to decide, do you want to be a cross-country team or do you want to be a football team? Because I've been on teams where they're perfectly content to say, well, if you're not going to do it right, we might as well be in good condition. And you're just going to run. He goes, personally, I'd rather be on a football team than a cross-country team.
It's good.
And then they came out today and did a lot of the same stuff they did yesterday, frankly.
That's fair. Yeah, it's fair.
So,
well, that's where Gerard needs to get on his offensive coaches and say, listen, button it up. Let's go.
I'm glad that they're addressing it, though. Like, don't just say, well, it's camp. It's the first day of pads. No, it's important.
Yeah.
I was glad to hear Gerard Mayo talk about something that Baker had done 2 or 3 days earlier, or maybe on the Sunday practice. They all blend in. When he caught that long pass and he like tumbled to the ground, he got up and threw the ball in the air. That's a fumble. He hadn't been touched.
Yeah.
Not to mention that if he threw the ball in the air as high as he did in the game and he had been touched, it probably would have been a penalty.
Right. Right.
You know what I mean? But I'm glad that he addressed that.
I've had enough of we complete a pass downfield and the whole team runs down and let's save that. No, really. I'm trying to get as many reps in as possible, and you're wasting time.
I agree with that point of it, too, but I also just think, act like you've been there before a little bit.
Yeah.
The defense kicks your butt all day long.
Right.
And you make one play down the field, and then the whole team goes down there.
Did you see when Milton threw the the slant to
Yeah.
Juju.
Yeah.
he threw the Larry Bird up.
Yeah.
like you just hit a three-pointer.
Like Evan said, act like you've been there before. And
I liked
if the
it.
defense celebrated after every play, we'd never have practice.
Well, they celebrated after every play in that late team period.
Okay, but
I think it was because of what you said, though.
Yeah.
I think it was a
Yeah,
response to the
exactly.
offense's
Now we're
over-exuberance. The defense got jacked up a little bit.
We're wasting time. You
We're
guys,
wasting
no, it's frustrating.
I'm more with Evan. Like,
and this is why
shouldn't
this
be
is
that
why,
big a deal.
But
when you
but this
complete
is why
one.
I go back to Gerard Mayo focusing on defense. Let's focus on getting this team buttoned up in all aspects. In all aspects.
It is interesting how little special teams they've done. Yeah. I love it personally because I'm not here to watch.
Do that on your own time.
Watch kicking, but
is Barth okay?
It's different. I'm not saying it's better or worse, but it's definitely different how little special teams are doing.
Once yesterday,
it used to always be, 7-on-7, 11-on-11 special teams.
There was always two special team sessions.
Reset. 7-on-7, 11-on-11,
Always
another special
back to
teams.
special teams. Yep.
And then they might do like the opportunity portion at the end.
And then always field goal at the
now
end.
it's only one special teams, and it's not anywhere near as in depth as it used to be.
No, I just one quick point. I know we're gonna end, but I just thought they did some kickoff yesterday. or kickoff return. I thought Marcus Jones looks like a nightmare with this new setup. He looks like a problem in that.
So I just looked at it and I watched. There was like 6 guys that handled a kickoff.
Yeah,
and I said, anybody but him handling a kick is a mistake. That's how different it looks when he has the ball.
Oh, he knows.
I think
it
he's
too.
Devin Hester. I think he's that much of a difference maker,
and it's hard
as a return guy.
You see they wait, and there's a gap, and you got some time to maneuver. It's not 11 guys charging down at different angles, and it's hard
no one's
to do
going
the
to kick into that. They're all going to kick it.
No,
into
I think if that becomes any kind of a problem in the first week or so, everybody's just going to kick. Like the NFL thinks they're so clever with this nonsense.
Right.
There's such an easy way
it's
around.
all touchbacks after week 3.
Right. All right. That's going to be it for this edition of Patriots Unfiltered. We will be back on Thursday at 1:30. Practice tomorrow, so be on Patriots. Not tomorrow. I'm sorry.
No practice.
Is today Tuesday?
Yeah.
No practice.
So
tomorrow.
no practice tomorrow. Practice
Thursday.
On Thursday. Won't be in pads though, but we'll have everything that happened on Patriots Unfiltered at 1:30. When's Catch 22 this week?
Thursday after P.
Thursday at 3:30.
Yes.
All right. Or 4.
4-ish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. See you then.
Thank you for downloading this podcast. Subscribe on Apple, Google Play, and everywhere else you listen. Like the show? Please rate and review us. Listener comments and ratings help keep us high in the podcast rankings so new listeners can find us. Be sure to check Patriots.com for more news and more podcasts.
The world's original podcast.